Welcome back to Brazil. That's right, we're here for the Six Invitational Day 2. But more importantly, it's the day of love. It's Valentine's Day. So for those of you that have someone extra special, make sure you hold them tighter. If you're lonely like us, we've got you for the rest of the day. That's right, we're here for 4 best of 3, so you can enjoy Valentine's Day with 2 incredible people. Let's be honest. Fox and... Well, actually, I'm going to go to Fox first. Sorry, I'm not even going to worry about you. Fox, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, I dressed up a little bit for Valentine's Day. You know, I want to give like some type of little connection with the viewers, you know, and all the players here. So it's been going good. I love Brazil so far, so it's been a great time. Some good games yesterday. Excited to see more. Yeah, look, there was a lot that happened yesterday, and I mean, 4 best of 3s on the A stream, 4 best of 3s on the B stream. How'd you feel it kind of panned out? Because coming into this, we did have a lot of certainties that we felt were certainties, and still a lot of expectations that have kind of been smashed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a very tight day for some teams yesterday. I feel especially those last games on each stream, they were really close or really dominant in regards to scoreline, both 2-0s, right? But they went full overtime for quite a few maps on both these games, and it's not really going to matter eventually as much when it comes to the points you'll get for winning out maps, but really close games regardless.
Certainly were. Now, we need to go and have a look at the broader spectrum of this tournament. I don't even know how I tripped over the word tournament there, but of course we are in group stages and we've got 3 phases to get through. There's a lot of action, 2 weeks of gameplay, Fox. Now, I mean, you've been a player, right? You've been in these kind of positions before. How important is it to make it to something like a Six Invitational?
From the perspective of a player, your whole life, in a way, is set up for the Invitational. Especially Invitational used to be in Montreal, and that's where I'm from. I could only imagine the amount of love that all of the Brazilian teams here get to experience, especially if they make it to main stage. It's so important. Not only is the prize pool and everything a little bit more important, but the weight of everything means that you're the world champion for the whole year. It's just that much more important. Yeah,
well, you were talking about all the teams that are here and, you know, players trying to get here, fighting tooth and nail. Let's go ahead and have a look at those groups, have a look at how things have panned out so far. Now, it's important to note, this is 1 through 5, so this is where they rank currently in their groups, but I believe there's 1 team from each group that hasn't played in.
Yeah, indeed. We have 1 day of games so far, so 1 team per group hasn't actually played yet. Some teams, some players actually making their SI debut today as well. I believe in that. But I believe there's 1 group that we specifically wanted to highlight, with that group being Group C.
Yes.
Because it is one of those groups that we've been talking about a lot in regards of, well, the group of death, the group with a lot of teams in there that, well, I feel like if you look at social media predictions, right, people are saying like almost every team could make it out of top of this group, almost every team could make it out at the bottom and be eliminated. But currently we have MAT at the very bottom, and I think this has been playing out due to how many maps were won in the matches we had yesterday, right? Liquid winning against Virtus.pro in a 2-1 puts them higher than Virtus.pro, but Virtus.pro still having that map. You can fight so hard to make it to overtime, but in the end, it's not going to matter if you don't get that point for the map.
Absolutely. The points are so important, and the standings aren't really that crazy to look at. M80 has gone out both majors, very lackluster performance. Obviously, they've changed their roster recently, but when you look at this whole standing, this whole group, to be honest, Bleed is the scariest APAC team. So you look at it and you're like, wow, every point really does matter. The fact that Virtus.pro was able to at least get 1, whereas M80 got 0, with how close the games went, it's just so scary to be in their position, especially because Bleed is no laughing matter. They're the fiercest team out of APAC, in my opinion. Yeah, well, I actually want to talk about M80 just for 2 seconds while we're still kind of, you know, wrapping up Group C there. Do you feel like, yes, no points for M80, they fought tooth and nail against W7M. Not great in terms of the points, but is that a good way to start your tournament? You've just gone up against the #1 team coming into this. Do you feel like that's a good start for M80? Absolutely. It does give you a little bit of confidence. Like, it went to overtime on both maps. It was so close. They were in the driver's seat for a lot of the first map. But at the end of the day, everybody in their group is so lethal, and there's no real weak link, especially this being Bleed's first day, their first game. I think M80 is going to be kind of nervous to, I guess, gauge how well Bleed has improved or declined since the last major. And if Bleed's gotten better, I'd be scared if I was M80.
I feel like they've got to get better, right? Like after an international performance, after they start to show up, they're going to be better. It's time to have a look at these matches that we're talking about, of course. A couple of debutants for SI today. Nice bit of noise behind us from the FaZe clan. But Stream B, Rainbow Six Bravo, that's where you want to go for all of those matches. That's where you're going to see Bleed play in their first matches. Fear X, you get to see what they're like. G2, you know, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered over on the B stream. But of course, we're focusing on the A stream. And do you have a match of the day for Stream A?
It's a very good question. I think it might be a very silly one, but my favorite might be Bliss versus Wolves, actually, considering these teams have actually played against each other a few times before. They were in the same group for every single tournament, or international tournament this year, so that's something exciting for sure. I mean, we have 2 rematches as our very first matches on the A stream.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited as well for the final match there to see where Fury's at. You know,
Fury and Falcons. It is a pretty close matchup, I'd say. I was going to say that was probably one of the most anticipated games. All of the games that we have today are pretty good, especially Los and Sonics. In my opinion, that's going to be my fan favorite match to watch today.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, there's something that also needs to be prefaced. I'm sure it'll be talked about later. Falcons now have their full roster back in, so that's obviously something that needs to be talked about a little bit. But something that needs to be talked about more is our opening match of the day. FaZe Clan take on SSG. Now, there is just something that sticks right out of the page immediately here. And should I break this one down for us?
Yeah, this looks terrifying if you're SSG when you look at the stats, really leading in favor of FaZe here, and specifically that attacker win percentage thing, right? Because FaZe is one of the best attacking teams at Atlanta, but if we look at SSG, they've only managed to win 19% of their attacking rounds. So we know how defensive favored this tournament has been so far, only on day 1, but you're really gonna try and make the difference in winning out your attacking rounds.
Absolutely. It's a daunting task if you're SSG, but at the end of the day, FaZe did play D+. They are very strong, but of course their stats are going to look very inflated. At the end of the day, they still were the second best attacking team in Atlanta. They had a 50% attack rate. They were only like 0.1% behind Los. So they're going to be very strong. And like you said, with defense, especially with Tubarão, defense naturally is just a lot more strong. So if you're SSG, you just can't look at the numbers and let it get inside of your head and play a factor into this match.
Don't think they're doing that. I mean, it sounded pretty rough here earlier, like these players like really beefing against each other, like, oh yeah, you'd be scared when I play this and that. It's just, it sounded like they really weren't scared of it.
No, not at all.
It's kind of hard not to, right? Like you're here to enjoy it, and I think that there's a certain composure that comes with that. And speaking of composure, FaZe are looking pretty comfortable at the moment.
I think yes, because we are very much stronger than them, and I think it will be an easy match today. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. You hear it from the boss himself. It's an easy match today, they think. Is that maybe a little bit too unfair to SSG?
I don't know if it's too unfair. If you're FaZe, you have to think that, especially last playing them was in Atlanta, and they had the crowd against them. They were the villains of that event. Vita King especially standing up. I mean, we heard some words back and forth between Vita King and Ashen just kind of going back and forth in the open. So I'd imagine that FaZe is feeling very confident, especially with how shaky SSG looked yesterday.
Is there any team that... There you go. Now we finally hear it from SSG. I mean, look, I've been told Ashen likes to smack talk nearly every team. So I think for FaZe as well, you know, coming into this and feeling confident, they're probably going to use that as a sign just to, hey, let's calm down. Let's just enjoy. Let's let them rile themselves up because, and when you look at FaZe coming into this, they have genuinely been one of the best teams of this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their consistency, especially this year, right? They managed to make it to stage 3 of both majors pretty much with ease, being very strong in their own region, being strong against international teams, and then when they make it to that main stage, they always get eliminated against a team from their own region. So I'm pretty sure they're happy to play against an NA team here, but especially given that they changed out their coach from stage 1 to stage 2 and still managed to get such a consistent result in that international stage, that's really impressive.
We always talk about their attacks, don't we?
Yeah.
Always talk about FaZe, and to be fair, I think both their attacking and defensive sides have been very solid. We saw it in the graphic again. It's probably not the best sample size, right? They had an easier game yesterday, but I don't think that that's even fair to say because they still show up and they still do what they need to do.
Historically, they have amazing statistics on attack, and just to put into perspective, you could say, oh, maybe their defense is a little weak, but the whole defense of the tournament is at a 62% right now, win rate, just in general.
Yeah.
So obviously, with the numbers on defense being very inflated and very strong. FaZe just has to keep doing what they've been doing from the last major, and their team is so dynamic, the way that they play. And yesterday, usually most players look at Cyber to be the carry for the team, but he was kind of taking a backseat while the rest of the team was really filling in the slots and carried him through the win against D+.
Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't, you know, and that's always something to have in the back pocket. But there is something that kind of concerns me a little bit about SSG, and it's the confidence going into this one.
We're looking to beat them, but obviously we're coming for Vidaking. It's just ghost pressure for us to them. You know, we're in their heads, so it's all about them and how they're going to think about us during the game. We don't care who we play, but we're coming for Vidaking.
Now, look, you might be confident enough to say that, but is that going to translate in the server?
I mean, they have to, right? It's just kind of a potential revenge for them because they did lose to FaZe in the Atlanta quarterfinals. So there's a potential revenge for them. We see sometimes these teams that lost the initial matchup win that second matchup simply because they're so determined to take that team down that beat them earlier, right? And for this organization as well, it's their 6th consecutive SI. That is very, very consistent. Of course, the roster changing a little bit over time, but even after since they've had Ashen join this roster at stage 2, they have played 9 best of 3s and they managed to win 7 out of those. That's a really consistent performance as well.
Absolutely. They have the level of capability to get to that point, especially when they were playing in Atlanta. They brought that match point back on map 2. They almost ran the comeback against FaZe in Atlanta. Now they're on the other side of things in Brazil, and yesterday's games, they had promise. They showed a lot of adaptation within rounds, but just unfortunately when it came down to the raw skill, Deadshot was firing on all cylinders yesterday, but you saw the team play from SSG there. You saw the potential, and I think that's the story about these guys. They have the confidence, they have the potential, they have a good background.
Yeah.
6 invites that they've gone to, you know that they can come to play at any day.
Now, you mentioned Ashen coming into this. You just, very briefly joining the roster. Do you think that he's been a big difference maker for SSG? Do you think that coming into SI, this could be, one of the key pivotal reasons as to why they could make a deep run?
Yeah, it could be on multiple fronts even, right? It's that mental aspect that we've been talking about, the way he's so vocal about it. We've been hearing him say some kind of Brazilian Portuguese things as well. Just trying to get into their heads a little bit. But also just rookies in that regards, like you have to, of course, adapt a lot. You can probably fill in on this more if you're just starting out as playing. But he said, well, I've been really having these issues with hyperfixating or tunneling, and they've been working really hard to make sure they get rid of that or work on it. But yeah, I'd imagine as a rookie, it's probably difficult to play your first SI.
I think the biggest stressor as a rookie is you'll see them in the server screaming a lot, and I think that gets to their head a little bit. They get a little overzealous, but when it comes to Ashen, he's screaming before the game even starts. Yeah. It's not just blind confidence or playing off of statistics or a round count. He really is screaming. I mean, when Vidaking walked by, he was like, did you go to the bathroom today? Because if not, I'm going to make you fill your pants. So it was kind of crazy, like the amount of trash talk that they're doing before the game starts. There's just
there he is again.
So much energy out of the team.
That's a lot of... And there's such bravado in his voice as well. It's time for us to have a look at the vetoes before I get too lost in all this conversation. Oh, he's an entertaining lad, isn't he? Skyscraper, Chalet, Oregon, and Clubhouse are banned out first. So after seeing this, God, he's so loud. Border and Cafe is where we go to start with, Anne.
Yeah, and we have SSG picking out Border, and this is a map that historically, ever since September, they've had their best attack and win rate on. And we've been hammering down on how important those attacks can be for both these teams. So that statistic from past events can really lead to hopefully something good for them here. They have a lot of international wins on that map as well. FaZe themselves, they pick Cafe, which might potentially be one of SSG's worst maps because they played it 6 times ever since stage 2, and they've only managed to win 2 of them. So if we're looking at the perspective of a potential decider, which is Bank, SSG really want to make sure they win out that first map.
Absolutely. I mean, Cafe is one of those maps that Brazilian teams are known for. They're very aggressive. It's a very slow map, at least in North America and in Europe. But in Brazil, they're jumping out of windows. They're getting very aggressive. And it's also a little bit we saw that Wolves was playing out on SSG, and Wolves ended up winning yesterday. So unless SSG changed up a lot or is expecting something different, if they don't get that first map on Border, it's going to look very scary going into Cafe.
All right, very quickly, we are ready. Where are we going? Border?
We are going to Border first, yes.
Yeah,
which is
FaZe or SSG? Who you got?
I think SSG winner because the last result for FaZe was a loss against Los.
Cafe is a Brazilian map. I think Border's an NA map. I got to give the first map to SSG.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's going to do us here on the desk. It's time to throw it over to your casters, B1 and B2.
Thank you very much, guys. Welcome over to the casting desk. I'm Des. This is Tim. Tim, I love the look, by the way. I love the shirt. Looks
Valentine's Day.
great. It is indeed. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you at home.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. I've made you something.
What?
I've made you an origami flower.
Tim, that's not an origami flower.
What?
What is that? What is that?
I spent ages on
That's not a thing in the school playground where you got to act like red, blue, yellow, yellow.
Well, that's rude.
You're an idiot. That's what I feel. What is that?
Can you believe this guy?
Oh, I really thought you got something serious as well.
So rude. Let's
Anyway.
go. It's the siege.
Yeah, let's get into it now. We're on the game for the day. As you've seen, this is going to be a wonderful series between FaZe and SSG. Siege Savants will remember this was a quarterfinal matchup that we had back at Atlanta where FaZe won 2-1. The thing coming into that, though, was although the first couple of maps were close, maybe not so much towards the end, it did start to really go FaZe's way at that stage. And coming out of Swiss, the thing that led to that eventual quarterfinal matchup, FaZe were top dog coming out of Swiss, SSG getting through just by the skin of their teeth with a 2-1 win over Bleed. So, although they're matched up again here and they were matched up in the quarterfinals before, it feels like SSG has still got some catching up to do, Tim, especially given our results yesterday when FaZe beat D+ 2-0 convincingly and SSG lost to Walls 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a little bit difficult to judge FaZe based on that D+ yesterday because D+, they were always going to have a tough day of it against FaZe, and FaZe really showed up. King particularly, I know Ashen in the little interview there before, and they're coming for him, but believe me, that is going to be a much tougher job than they might think because King was on it yesterday. But I want to give KDS a shout from yesterday as well. Had a good day. There was a particular area on Clubhouse. He was just absolutely dominating Red Stairs for the gym bedroom hold. It was just such impressive play from him. FaZe have got a lot more to offer than they even showed us yesterday. So tough day for SSG today. And obviously you touch on that quarterfinal loss as well. FaZe, they're just going to look to double down on that. So we've had our bans come through. Amaru, Ying again, Valkyrie and Solis will be missing for this one.
Not a lot to go on for SSG coming into this game either, to be fair. Only seen it played the once against Lost where, well, FaZe lost that 7-5, and that was back at Atlanta. So a good few months ago now. Equally, probably 4 games of history to go for across stage 2 and a major for the side of FaZe. So probably coming into this expecting border might be a thing. Hopefully have got something up their sleeves to deal with the threat on the other side. Here we go though. FaZe starting off on the defensive side. We said yesterday over on the B stream, you probably are going to see a lot of teams starting on the defensive side of things with most of the maps, regardless of whether they are historically attacker or defender leaning. The meta at the moment is very heavily in towards the defensive side, and you can see why really on the left-hand side of your screen. We've got that Bandit and the Tuberal combo coming out. We saw it quite a lot yesterday on the B stream when it was available, Tim. But no doubt you're going to see it being rolled out here, though the recent changes where the electrification effects of Bandit and Kaid only come back on after 1.5 seconds does mean that it's not going to be as strong as it would have been pre-nerf.
The double shield combo coming in for SSG. You're right there, Des.
Sick on Valentine's Day already.
Just a little wretch there. We've got the Monty, we've got the Blitz coming in. You know, you've got to look at, there's no hard breach there for them. So they're looking at that too, right, thinking, you know what, we're not even going to try for breach in here. So an alternative to that is the Monty, is the, you know, just walk in, just give yourself the facility. If you're not going to hard breach, you're going to have to play through doors. So how do you make getting through the doors easier? You bring the big shield and you bully your way in, and that's obviously what SSG are going to be looking to do. They're going to have to deal with a couple of things first, because the last thing a shield wants is somebody on the flank. They're going to try and get themselves in archives by the looks of things, but Handy is going to pick up a Forest to begin with.
Well, they bailed out here and trying to go for the plan inside of Archives. They had the window, they had the doorway, everything was lined up, but elsewhere around the map, they've lost 2 players, Tim. And without them on side, they just don't have the cover to pull this off, and so they feel they can't commit to going for a plant. And I'm not surprised to see this, by the way. The no hard breach thing, we saw teams like Koi employing this on Villa back when it was in the map pool, RIP. It was one of those things where if teams are hunkering down so well on the defense, let's just all 5 flood into sight with the blitz and make things happen. They've tried to make the same thing happen here, but obviously you've seen, not managed to get the kills to really turn things around. Jane, I know, with a nice shot onto Souls with the pistol on the Monty. But the 2 versus 3, Tim, and still seeing the Echo on side. This one feels like a bit of a foregone conclusion. I think FaZe will take round 1.
But there's a bigger problem than 2 versus 3, really. It's not even really 2 versus 3. You've got Monty, who's only got a pistol, and you've got Hot and Cold, who's only got 2 HP. So You know,
And
they split up as well. If anything, you need hot and cold with J9O at this point. He needs to be able to work off that information. J9O is going to feed him. He needs to be Monty's rifle, realistically. And I think that's what they're trying to do at the minute. They may be just trying to relocate. I don't know. Hot and cold going to have a look in through sight for a second, but looking to maybe get a little bit of support for J9O, but not a chance as he comes in through that window. The two that I picked out, KDS, Vittaging, they're going to finish the round off, and it is a good start for FaZe. They are not going to be caught out by rushers. They're not going to be scared of shields. They looked very, very solid then.
I want to say, I don't think it was in Atlanta, it may have been Copenhagen, that SSG were the team that made some really good executes onto that exact site, making very aggressive use of Ying. Again, I may be wrong that it wasn't. I know it was an NA team. I don't remember if it was SSG or not, or even if it was against SSG. But teams have made really good use of hitting that site fast with a Ying and just completely flooding things out between Sandwich and in between archives. And teams couldn't do an awful lot about it. And there were elements of that coming into that execute with the two shield setup. As you saw, though, FaZe just had the answer. And I do think you may well see more orchestrated attacks like that, these kind of rushy, aggressive plays. Because as we remarked a number of times yesterday on the B stream, with the current meta being what it is, a lot of very strong defenders in the game, you can either play slow as the attackers and just get run into the ground, run out of time because of all that defensive utility, or you have to go hard, go fast, and that is exactly what SSG have tried to do. Now we get to see how things go in Benson Workshop, though, and we've got the mirror being brought along here, along with the Azami. So still a lot of defensive utility being brought along here to fortify the site.
5 seconds remaining.
SSG then going to have to crack FaZe open. To be honest, FaZe were, I don't think even ruffled really. A couple of kills came in, but they were just so solid in their positions. They weren't really too worried about it. Top floor control is going to be the fight here. We can see FaZe getting themselves set up. Cyber Soul's upstairs. They've got the mirror window up there. Handy's in support as well, I think, on the Kaid over in Armory. So they're looking to hold on to both Armory and Archives here. And SSG, again, much like I said yesterday, if you watched us over on the B stream, we covered Falcons on border, in the final game, and you know the fights come around stopping teams getting into the building, stopping the attackers getting themselves established. SSG are actually doing pretty well at that. Round 2, they're straight in, they've got themselves into waiting. Ashen's able to move across that bottom floor, but we saw what happened yesterday when you ignore the top floor. You'll just get absolutely shut down from up there. The verticals are too important, so SSG definitely need to be picking up those kills above as well.
It's nice, really, from FaZe to want to control so much of the map. You saw them go all the way across Armory and Archives, you know, from the west wall all the way across to the office-facing wall with the mirror window on it as well.
Ooh,
does.
A little bit of luck,
yeah.
Maybe.
Running down through bathroom and trying to get his way back out towards the main part of the map, gets himself cut down. A second one comes through as Ashen with yet another angle. It's a good set of, not so much crossfires, but these angles being held by SSG, just cutting out FaZe, and they're trying to retreat back towards the site. So those on the upstairs now have got to be very, very wary about dropping hatches. This one, for example, you're fully exposed to double doorway, and at this point, they don't know if there's someone out there waiting for that drop to come through.
Yeah, if SSG pick their plant spot carefully, even with FaZe above, there is still the potential to do this, but it's not easy. So they're going to need a couple more kills, and Fultz starts us off with exactly that. Manages to pick up Cyber from the top of East Stairs. And what a contrast we've had here, round 1 to round 2. FaZe dominant in round 1, and then SSG really answering back here in round 2. They've been impressive. KDS knows he needs to make a move. Out he goes. Does manage to pick up Fultz. Absolutely gets away with one there. Fultz unable to react quite quickly enough, and Forrest is going to be the one now trying to get that diffuser down. 4 versus 1. KDS got his work really cut out for him.
Yeah, he's really tried to make something happen with his bathroom drop as well, and won't even be able to find Forrest. A great round from SSG.
Much better.
And as much as we said, the difference is you'll see teams playing slow and being bled out by the utility, because FaZe have extended around so much of the map, controlling the majority of the top floor and also trying to rotate around on the downstairs without any real, you know, castle barricades up or reinforcements to cover those rotations. They've just been cut down by SSG, who are happy to wait for them to run into the angles they were holding. That one admittedly an angle that you weren't quite ready for, but an angle nonetheless that worked out for them.
I think, yeah, the drone had gone in. I think they knew that he was in and around bathrooms. So I think it's one of them sometimes.
Oh, the read.
I've said this before. Ammunition is not awfully limited in Siege. So if you know somebody's maybe going to rotate, just spray through the barricade. You're not going to miss the bullets. Just throw a few in. And that's exactly what Fultz does. And he got his rewards for it. But this has been a great start so far. I woke up and I was looking forward to getting into this game. I looked at it and I thought, you know, on paper, FaZe were the better team yesterday, probably overall. SSG had a little bit of a wobble at the back end against Wolves, but Wolves did improve towards the end of that game and made life difficult for them. But I just felt like SSG have got a bit more to throw at it. And this is what I wanted to see. One round each, and I'm hoping that it continues like this throughout this game. Just blow for blow, big rounds, big kills. And this one is poised at the minute. We've got the foundation of a cracker. Round 3, we're going to head to bathroom and tell us, Des.
We are indeed going to be that third site rotation before I imagine we repeat all 3 of those sites once again. And a little bit of change coming in. We spoke a little bit about the lack of a castle in that previous round, not giving too many safe angles of retreat or movement for the side of FaZe. Castle does enable that, cutting off angles that would otherwise be left open to the attackers and forcing them to use some soft breach to get through it, or in this case, the hard breach of faults, given you have so many of those X-Kairos pellet in back pocket. Just 2 of them are enough to get rid of one of those castle barricades and start shooing your way through the map.
The roam last time from FaZe was completely unsuccessful, in all honesty. That top floor presence, trying to force SSG onto the clearance, didn't really do them any good. FaZe this time need to pick up that entry kill. They need to get that man advantage. KDS has taken a little bit of damage. SSG are doing well again. Hot and cold, we saw this from him yesterday. Trying to creep in on the knock. Soul's missing his opportunity. And that's what I was talking about. If you get that chance in front of you, you gotta take it here. You gotta hurt them from the roam.
Well, both teams taking a bit of ship damage. KDS and Hot and Cold, as you can see, the ones coming out worse than were in the first 60 seconds or so. But outside of that, like ships in the night, they've all passed each other and things can resume from here. A lot of top floor control slowly being taken over by the side of SSG. Ashen sleeping on towards the south. Jane, I imagine, trying to work his way up towards north to get inside of Archives Forest out towards the west as well. But still being challenged here on the south side. Could prove a little bit bothersome, Tim. It's not just one player. There's 2 of them here holding the angle.
Yeah, Fult's taking quite a bit of damage there as well. The Finker of Ashen will juice him back up a little bit, but not really going to be enough to be taking big fights. Ashen does get in onto the catwalk here, and Cyber just needs to be a little bit careful about exactly where he goes on those east stairs, because there is a line of sight, and it's getting dangerous for them now. Vitaking shut down KDS. Cyber's likely to go as well, and this is an absolute mid-round flurry coming in from SSG. 4 kills on the bounce. They're looking for flawless. They won't get it, but they won't care. 3rd round goes their way. It's 2-1.
And 2 rounds in a row where they've only dropped 1 member. Very convincing in that 3rd round. The first one, you can write off, right? We're looking at the shield play. It was the rush attempt. It got handled well by FaZe, but in the last 2 rounds, where things have been a little bit slower, a little more composed, and SSG have had time to figure out what's going on, whilst also expecting a little bit of craziness from FaZe, they've dealt with it all expertly so far. And what I loved in that last round was just how they pull that trigger, and all of a sudden 4 players are flooding into office, they're pushing and dropping into bathroom, and FaZe simply don't have the time to react. Wonderful start. So
I like how they sort of turned FaZe's defense on its head and used it against them. You had Vitaking and Cyber playing on east stairs, and initially you look at that and you think they're completely stopping them getting in the building here. They've got the castle barricades, they've got everything else. But what SSG did was, by Ashen getting onto that balcony, it sort of flipped that defense and said, actually, you're not keeping us out. You're now stuck. You're trapped here. And all SSG had to do was collapse in on them, and there was absolutely nothing FaZe could do about that. So SSG using what was a strength for FaZe and turning it into a weakness, and that's one of the biggest things that you can do on attack. So really well done from SSG. We're going to see then back to Armory for FaZe this time. We don't have the double shield combo. Instead, we've got what looks like a little bit more of a normal setup coming in from SSG. They've got the hard breach in the hand of Fultz. We'll see whether they go for the west breach still. There's no Tubarão on side, so if they've recognised that, they might know that there is an opportunity to get in there and breach that west side.
Speaking to some teams, though, they're saying, you know what, Tubarão actually not that big a bother at the minute. We're much more fussed by things like Solus and Fenrir. They are real headaches, and I think actually the Fenrir here is a really good pickup for FaZe. Given we've seen this kind of the last couple of rounds, at least, these kind of slow steps forward from SSG, and then a sudden explosion when it comes around to looking to close out the round, the Fenrir could be massive for them as long as they've got those dread mines positioned pretty close to the site, as that is where SSG seems to enjoy suddenly taking fast control. Soul's falling down. He's had a rotten start to this game so far, Tim. 0-4.
certainly has. And, you know, we do expect a lot of Souls. He's, you know, well known as the clutch master for FaZe particularly. He really does win those 1vx situations. But that's, you know, not a situation he's finding himself in at the minute. He's being taken out at the beginning of the rounds. And really, if you're losing Souls early on in the rounds, that's a problem for FaZe. He's one of those players that you want in and around the site. You want him there in the last 30 seconds. He's, you know, one of those rocks that a defense can depend on.
Hot and cold could be a real damage dealer here. He's working his way up these stairs, and we had 2 players hanging around 90 a second ago. Cyber's now dropped away, so it's not quite the end of the board. They've just got away from it. But if he was 3 seconds early, that easily could have been a couple of kills coming in for him. He's still working his way around for Cyber, but look at the position of the other SSG players. There's 2 others on this south balcony for him. They know what they want to fight for, and yet again, they just keep on missing each other, and now the engagement comes in, and Cyber comes out on top.
Cyber does manage to win that one out. He's going to be able to juice himself back up as well. Obviously, the big strength of Doc. You can take that gunfight, you can take that damage, and then you are back to full health and back in the fight. And Cyber relocates. That is a big moment for FaZe, just shutting down that push from Hot and Cold and buying them a lot of time. That's just bought FaZe about 30 seconds there.
This mirror window is so helpful as well to help out Cyber. So helpful to help the man playing on Sandwich, and then he gets absolutely beamed from across the map. Go figure. So not quite going the way they wanted. At this point, we're down to about 30 seconds, though. SSG have done a great job of isolating individual players and getting them picked off as a team, but now you've got to hit the site in this 4v3.
Yep, time's going to be the factor here for SSG as we move into that final 30 seconds. Don't have clean access into site, but that's a big kill from Ashen, taking down Handy. KDS with a huge double, though. 2 versus 2 now. Fultz trying to get on into site, but it's J9O who's doing the damage, picking up Bitter King, and it's now 1v1. KDS gets slammed with the shotty, and that is going to be SSG closing out yet another successful attack on Border.
Honestly, I think you go back and look at that play on the south side of the map to begin with. I know they didn't get Cyber initially. He did manage to get off towards Sandwich and then got picked up later on. But if you go back and watch match replay or watch the VOD back, whatever you want to do, it was so impressive how 3 or 4 members of SSG just all descended on one player. You had the Hot and Cold coming up east stairs. You had one pushing in on south balcony. You had the Buck from below as well. Essentially, he was dead to rights, and he was lucky to get away, only then to die 10 seconds later, sat inside a Sandwich. But I just love seeing that team play from SSG coming together and punishing another team on the attacking side. After their attacks yesterday were a little bit hit and miss is the best word to describe it against Wolves. This is looking far better today against who is their most recent tournament rival.
So much so that we're going to have a FaZe tactical timeout. Not too much of a surprise to see that, because, to be honest, FaZe just haven't really turned up today. You know, this is kind of what I touched on coming into it. We've seen FaZe against D+ Kia yesterday, but they weren't really stretched that much. And today was always going to be the bigger test for FaZe, and they're not standing up too well to it at the minute. SSG are just playing really, really well. They're giving them no space. They're finding the weaknesses, and they're moving quickly to take advantage of them. And I love what I'm seeing from the NA side.
I wouldn't want to pull it all strictly back to map pick either, but Border is the lowest round win rate and the lowest preference map for FaZe out of all of their map pool. And their map pool is extremely wide. Outside of a Chalet Permaban, they play absolutely everything, but Border is definitely the weakest of that cluster of maps that they'll play. Whereas for SSG, it's still quite low in pref as well, but again, they'll probably come into this with a game plan. They've seen how yesterday went. They know they need to get back to that fragging form that we've seen them in at previous competitions, and yesterday we didn't really see them have those sharp edges, the hero players that could achieve great things for them. Jane, I know this game especially has been absolutely stellar.
I think it's a really good point you make there, Des. FaZe, yeah, it might not be their best map, so we're kind of expecting them to grow into the series as they get onto some other maps, maybe, you know, play a little bit better. The problem, though, is I look at SSG and I think they're a real confidence team. If you get somebody like Ashen, who's getting some kills under his belt, he's screaming, he's hyping the team up. Yes, FaZe might be able to grow into it, but if they take an absolute smashing here on Border, they're going to be playing against a hyped-up, confident SSG, and so you can probably be as good as you want on those later maps. It's still going to be a massive struggle, so FaZe, they need to get a hold of this on Border.
They do, and so far, Bitter King, he called him out. He's been kept quiet so far.
They've kept him in the pocket at the minute.
To be fair, outside of KDS, pretty much everyone on the team has been kept quiet. It's been tough to deal with because they've said SSG are very good, at least on this map, of getting 3-4 players just descend on an individual player and cause absolute trouble. And here,
you can't lose that.
Such a pain. Like, really, you should have the advantage of that situation as well, but I think that shotgun hole into the ceiling just gave his position away, and all it took was for Forest to look skyward, pull the trigger, easy peasy, 1, 2, 3.
And that's exactly what I'm saying about SSG, a confidence team. The more kills they get, the more action that they see, they're just going to grow and go and get better and better. Like you said, generally, you know, it's not really a rule of thumb, but in Siege, if you're above, you tend to have a bit of a height advantage. Fighting downwards, you do always, you know, you tend to see a lot of those gunfights will be won by the person who's got the high ground, if you will, that's looking down on the vertical. But Forest, not scared in the slightest, absolutely slams him.
I like how in this round they brought the castle. I know he's obviously now dead, but it does mean that east corridor like backstab is now not really an option, which we saw in the previous round from Hot and Cold. He's now playing on the butt from below, and it's Fultz who's working his way up east instead. But what did I say before? 3 or 4 players all going into Cyber. He will run into an angle at some point and he'll die. There you go, dead to window.
There you go. Just something I want to quickly pick up on there that we've seen once or twice at this tournament is the Capito bolt through the single bullet hole. If you can like, it's a nasty one. They just bolt straight up for it. We saw it in NRP yesterday. We've just seen it there again today. You know, and what a way of delivering that utility. It takes a little bit of, or an awful lot of precision, but boy, will it be a surprise when that arrow comes through the floor.
I really feel for FaZe. The problem is the players are playing quite isolated. Like Cyber's always been the furthest forward play. You've had players running around downstairs. It's been a little bit kind of detached, and it's so easy then for SSG to go, well, there's one guy by himself, there's no one giving in cover. This is the easiest pickup of our life, and I think it's too little too late now, because this is round 5, which you're pretty much guaranteed to lose in a 5v2. You got 1 round to make major amends, and playing that bit tighter together, I think, would be the way to go here, but FaZe just have not adapted to the threat at all.
Souls is just actually rotating out into 90 corridor. You can see his see his outline on the screen there. He could be on a big flank. Vitaking manages to get one. He really needed to win that gunfight, but couldn't. Hot and Cold shuts him down. Souls lost his life on the flank attempt, and that is going to be another round for SSG. 4-1, and they are running away with things on border.
Very interesting duality compared to yesterday, where we had everything be so defend-decided in the SSG Wolves matchup. Whereas here, well, the defense aren't getting much joy at all. SSG, as you say, are cruising through border right now. Fence Workshop going to be the last site for this half. We'll then switch sides and see how SSG fare on the defense. And for FaZe's sake, I really hope we see a different team from them come out in the second. Oh, man. We're going to see this all tournament long now. Thanks, Wizard. And thanks, Dev, also for highlighting it on Twitter, by the way. Shared it on there yesterday. Everyone was talking about it. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely going to be a thing, not only in ranked, but also for the rest of SI.
That's going to be my frustration, is I'm going to see that in ranked every day. But we move to round 6. FaZe desperately need to get themselves a second defensive round here. They're going to move site, head downstairs to ventilation and workshop. Last time around, they tried to hold this from above. SSG went in kind of underneath, got a kill or 2, and then went upstairs and dealt with them as well. So there was just no hiding for FaZe, really. There was nothing that they could do. So this was the round that made me think, really, you need more from your roamers. You need more out in the map. So if SSG are going to push underneath, your players that are down there, your players that are maybe in customs, for example, need to be winning those fights. You need to get those kills so that your top 4 players can just stay there a little bit more comfortably.
It's not even strictly winning the fights that I'm bothered about. It's more the lack of any kind of closeness or proximity to the player.
Yeah, they're not impacting on the death.
Or any kind of trade being played. Like, I mean, looking even here, for example, yeah, he's playing his life Vitaking, but he's entirely by himself here with no support from anyone else in the team. They get passport secured, for example, with jail already being opened up. He's in hot water. He will get picked off if he doesn't move away and have support and backup from his team. Now, fortunately, no one's pushed in through Vent's front door to cut him off, but that may well change as the round goes by. You can see him moving around downstairs a little bit here. Ashen the first potential to fall here, and that's the Decay be taken offline. Big kill for KDS.
Yeah, that's a big start. FaZe really needed that. This is what I was saying. They've got to be picking up those first couple of kills, because at the minute, when they don't, SSG are doing a great job then of, you know, like you say, you pick up on Vitaking's position there. They're recognizing, oh, this player's isolated, let's go and get him in numbers, and then they're not losing any manpower along the way. So now, FaZe, they've helped themselves to stop that happening by taking away that entry kill, and now SSG are 4v5, and they can't start giving the same sort of manpower over to those isolated players. So now Vitaking maybe has a little bit more freedom in customs.
Jane, I know, has seen a lot as well in knows there's a player on 90, he knows the Maestro is sat on half wall and just sees him run. Handy down to half HP. Fortunate, I was going to say, to still be alive, but he goes back in for seconds, and J9O all too happy to take them straight down the gullet. Another kill coming into the round, albeit a 4 versus 4 between the two sides, 1 for 1.
1 minute 8 left to go. Time is going to be the big factor. I'm already going to say that now for SSG. They've got a lot of work to do. They don't have top floor control. They're trying to push onto ventilation and workshop. They're not really in a position for any sort of execute, nor to isolate any of these FaZe players and continue to push them. The Oryx just stood inside of Tellers. It's Souls who's in there. That could be an interesting one because there is a hatch in there, of course. Don't forget, that goes up to office. If that's been opened up, there's a real opportunity for him to get up there on the flank in the late round as well. Thank you very much. It is open, so that is something they need to be very aware of. We don't get to see too many times where Oryx comes up the hatch successfully, but no. I think they know about him.
We speak about it still to this day. Skadinho,
so
right?
Exciting when it happens. Skadinho it was.
Yeah, got up through the study hatch on Villa and shot 3 people in the back, whatever it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, decimated them. That was back in 2020. That's how rarely we see it, like, very successful. We remember it when it happens.
Gotta go.
But Souls is still in that potential position. There comes the drop into sight, though. Forest takes the fight. Will not win it. KDS double, and Souls did find a kill on the Oryx. He wasn't picked up inside of Tellers, and it was punished later in the round.
I'm pretty sure it was a KDS 4K in that round as well. Yeah. He really has dragged his team through the half, and not strictly all down to him, of course, but when you look at the numbers, I think he's now on 10 kills across the half.
He played really well yesterday as well. He wasn't necessarily putting up huge numbers, but like I say, there was just a few positions, particularly on the clubhouse against D+, that he just would not be moved from. It was honestly terrifying to watch him.
Now we get the side swap. See how FaZe do on the attack, and now SSG fair on the defensive side. Again, yesterday the defensive record for SSG was sublime. Played very well in the series against Wolves despite losing 2-1. But this map, I think as many will always tell you, it's a little bit of a shootout. It is an attacker-leaning side of things. I did say earlier on, teams will often choose to start on the defense given the way the game currently sits with the stacking up of things like the Tuberov, Fenrir, Solus, Valkyrie being strong, Zami being in the mix. Just so many good tools that defenders have available to them right now. So this is going to be a very telling second half for how the rest of this series may go. We're going to start up on that second floor, as you can see. The Fenrir and the Azami of those power picks being brought along by SSG, and you'll be pleased to know no rush coming in on the other side, but Tim, we are going to see a Blackbeard locked in by Souls.
Ooh, okay. We're mixing things up. We don't see too much Blackbeard. Occasionally, every now and again, we bring out the face shield. We'll see what Souls can do with that one. But it's going to be, as you say, SSG on the attack. Armory will be the kickoff. Somewhere that FaZe actually struggled. It's usually a pretty good defensive site on the whole. But I just felt FaZe were allowing SSG into the building a little bit much. I said this yesterday. You got to fight attacking teams at the boundaries. You don't want them established inside of border. When that happens, it becomes very difficult to win rounds as the defenders. So I'm interested to see now if SSG maybe play it a little bit more aggressively, right up to those walls, windows, doors. Any time you hear a barricade, poof, run in that direction, prevent them getting inside.
It's about whether or not we see them get players picked off in the same way that SSG did as well. Can they isolate individuals? Can they punish them? Yay or nay? We'll see as the round moves on forward. For now, at least, nothing too much coming in. FaZe really just doing a lot of the sniffing around and figuring out what's going on, and nothing really to be said in terms of an engagement just yet. Sniffing things out. Souls up onto the balcony again. This Blackbeard, good for a headshot or two to be removed away from you, but after that, you are still going to be dead to rights. So Souls, who hasn't really been too on it with the gunplay so far this game, has got to be on it on the Blackbeard.
The Blackbeard does have nades in pocket as well. Going to be hit by that Fenrir action in a nice position here. They've no idea. It's an absolute freebie. How do you deal with a Blackbeard shield? You shoot him in the back, Des.
I feel that's a real slip-up on FaZe's side as well. Like, before you even look at West Wall, you've got to be droning out security. Yeah. And the Ashen has sat there unchecked and got away with that with no cover. Oh, not again, surely. That would have been horrific, because again, still no drones coming in. Yeah.
J9O going to take down Cyber. Once again, another round going in the direction of SSG. Handy manages to get something going for FaZe, finding one, cannot find a second, just working from the ventilation units on Archive's window. KDS has got himself inside, and he's got himself a double almost. There's one down at the back. Does he know? I'm not sure he does, but Ashen has managed to rotate across. Doesn't matter when it's a skeleton key to the face, though. 2v2 here.
Got to do it. Oh, he still finds the beam. One more on Sandwich. Does he know? Don't think he knows that it's the side or not. He is indeed D still out on the rappel, so advantage to Thoughts here. Hasn't got to do much, but doesn't seem too certain as to what is to come and where from.
I think he's got half an idea that this player is not inside of the map here, so he definitely will not now. He will have heard that rappel noise. He might take the opportunity to actually get J9O back on his feet here. He knows that there is a moment, a brief respite that he can do it, and that could be a huge player in terms of this round.
This could be absolutely massive. As you say, the 2 versus 1 being forced back out now. King with 15 seconds to do it, or they can have a player just run away here unless he can get the diffuser down, but thought for a second his stay gun up, trying to look for a push to come in. He's going to try and stick this one. You got J9O coming in from West Main, running across the gap, sees his man, and they get the shut down. It was a good couple of moments there coming out at the end from the buck, but SSG persevere and hold on. They are 5-2 up, Tim. Suddenly it starts to feel like this might be not quite as distant a series as we thought. Instead, could be a very close one between these two.
Well, the big problem there for FaZe is there's a number of problems, but they've moved over, they've switched sides. They've switched sides. The drawing's been poor. And now SSG are winning on the defense as well. Because you were kind of, if you were a FaZe fan, you were hoping that they come in there, yeah, maybe it's fine, we just need to get onto the attack, we can mix it up there. That's not happened. SSG have come out and won that. It was a close one, but SSG were in charge of it for the most part. You know, just silly mistakes from FaZe. This one, you can't let Ashen sit on that window. Like you say, just completely unaware of his position inside of CCTV. Whether they knew that he was there or not in general terms, they didn't know that he was on that window and that he was a threat to Souls, and that is a huge problem. That's one of those deaths where Souls is just going to be like, come on guys, I've just got shot in the back from window. Who's on the drones? Why do we not know he's there? And for FaZe, I think, you know, they're trying a couple of things, but just nothing's working at the minute.
It feels like they haven't really turned up to the game yet. Is the way I describe it. It sounds like a really small thing to like analyze as well, but Souls earlier when he was on the Bandit got into a 1 versus 1 gunfight where he didn't shoot back, but he was quite lethargic and turning away from the gunfight. He didn't snap back to actually try and take the engagement, almost died for it, took a few shots, and I was like, you don't look like you've woken up ready, like you haven't done your warm-up, for example. You had to run around this morning and got yourself ready for the game, and that sort of thing is really going to sting, so we've got to see them get with it. I think after this map, I think at this point you could even potentially just write this off and say, right, SSG, border is theirs, fair play, we're going to have to wait until we get onto Cafe. But like you said earlier, the way the LATAM teams play Cafe, and the Des were talking about this, if they're going to play it fast, they're going to play it aggressive, you've got to be able to win your gunfights, and that means something has to change in the break. I mean, looking down the scoreboard on the left, KDS is still clear as a total. The rest of his team's kills all combined. As a group, they've got 9. He's sat on 12. That tells you who's awake and who's not, really, on this team right now.
Yeah, 100%. So a little bit more needed from a number of members of the FaZe team, but SSG just stifling them at the minute and making it so difficult. Souls is going to work his way in underneath. It is a bathroom teller's objective. SSG have a presence up in office as we would expect. That is something that FaZe are going to have to deal with. But much like SSG did, they've decided they're going to get themselves initially in underneath and try to pressure the players that are downstairs.
Get rid of some of these castle barricades. FaZe made quite extensive use of them on the defensive side, and SSG cleared out a few, but Hoffen left most of them standing, to be honest. They didn't bring things like the Flores, didn't bring along too much soft reach for us here. We've got tons of it coming in on the other side. Looking towards the Flores, of course, the Sledge, got the Ash available as well, lots to work with. And finally, a little bit of joy, Cyber finding Ashen.
You feel like the more that FaZe can sort of, you know, as much as SSG wanted to target King, you feel if FaZe can target Ashen a little bit and keep wearing him down, he is one of those players, he's vocal, he's the voice of the team, and the more that they can get inside his head and stifle him, stop him playing, maybe the more impact it will have on them overall. KDS managing to find one as well, continuing to play fantastically well here today, but it hasn't been enough for his team so far. Looks like it could be in round 8 though. 5 versus 3 now. And SSG, they're really going to be backs to the wall on the defense here, and it just goes from bad to worse as Hot and Cold gets picked up. J9O last alive with about 10 HP to his name. Cyber shuts him down, and that's going to be a flawless round for FaZe.
Something not so much, not a big deal to be absent from FaZe, as they haven't always been the loudest of the LATAM teams, but no real celebration. And I'm not saying that's like a bad thing or even particularly a good thing. I think it's more that, again, a sign that they are still warming into this. They know there's still a job to do. They're still 2 rounds behind. We're coming into that round now, Tim, that you always bang on about round 9 being that critical round. SSG win this one, 6-3. it's hard to imagine FaZe picking up 3 rounds in a row. If FaZe do it and win this round, they close the gap to just 1. And then suddenly there is what we would say as casters, a game on our hands.
We love a game on our hands as casters. We absolutely love it. Yeah, I think SSG just getting caught out a couple of times there. We saw Ashen's death in the middle of CCTV. We see Hot and Cold there just overextending at the bottom of the East stairs and just giving themselves away, putting themselves in difficult positions. FaZe more structured, able to push SSG around a little bit in that round, and you feel like maybe that could be the catalyst, that could be the spark that sort of gets them going. But SSG, they just need to dig in here. They're going to switch sites, go to ventilation, make life as difficult as they can for FaZe. Don't let them build momentum. You know, I'm thinking, I was going to say maybe a few traps. They've got Tubarão on site. Just anything to slow them down a little bit and prevent them sort of building.
The Electro combo coming in with the Kaid and the Tubarão here, rather than the Bandit and the Tubarão that we saw coming in for FaZe back in the first half. Either way, you're getting the memo by now. Electricity plus Tubarão equals good, even with the nerf that came through recently. The Pulse one that we don't see all that often as well, interestingly, but here, being brought along, I think we saw it a little bit, 1 round on Consulate, but outside of that, not been massively picked so far across the first day of SI 24. Pulse here, no doubt, very valuable for feeding that information all across the map, especially one that's quite blocky and square like Border.
It's been interesting to watch the reduced influence of nades as well so far at SI. Obviously the nades underwent those changes.
What a blessing.
This is it. You know, if you think back to the last sort of former big tournaments that we've had, it's been nade kill after nade kill after nade kill. A lot of, you know, the up nades as we called them, you know, getting them in underneath, finding players, and that's just not possible anymore because obviously the nades have changed. They're now on a fuse that cannot be cooked. So once they hit a surface, they will then, you know, detonate 2 seconds later. So it's just about sending them into a position and using them to move players out of those positions. So seeing a lot less reliance on that utility. And these are the shifts that I love within Siege, and then seeing how the teams adapt to that and, you know, what then becomes used more, what becomes more important.
Ever-changing metas always keep things nice and fresh. Some teams thrive, some crumble during these kind of metas as well. It's no doubt going to be a surprising tournament the further through we go. I'm sure there'll be a few upsets along the way as well. Either way, halfway into the round and no one's died. It's one of the more peaceful rounds that we've had on this map so far. Tim, on such a critical one as well. We've already spoken about the importance of round 9 here. FaZe doing a lot of the work to make sure this top 4 is still clear. Didn't really look until a few seconds ago like they were fully confident that they had it without any kind of disruption. Not the most ideal C4 throw in the world, but sometimes that's going to happen.
Unfortunate on your Pulse as well, bringing him along. Obviously, yes, to provide information first and foremost, but it's always just such a great opportunity to be able to pick up those vertical kills as well, and just isn't going to happen. But J9O manages to find Cyber on the metal stairs. That gets things kicked off for SSG, and what I suggested, Des, keeping things slow, not letting FaZe move quickly and find those kills is something they've been able to achieve. 2 minutes 30 in, 5 versus 4. SSG looking pretty good, but FaZe do have the vertical control.
Souls is so crucial to this push because he's got their back cover here. If he gets any kills here, unless they all flank round the other way, in which case it's absolute disaster for them. But they're going in for the plant. No one's able to stop it just yet, and they've got vertical cover. This is perfect. A great heist pulled off by FaZe, and they've got the vertical play to use. Do we see SSG flood upstairs? Yes, we do. 3 players up there for the retake. Forest already finding one. Asher coming in for the next, and they've got the vertical, Tim. That's all they really need to get this one closed out. Souls has got work to do at range. Finds a second one for himself after Vidaking finished off J9O, but it's a 2 versus 1, and they might be dropping into their death here. That was a...
Needed the R6 dash to get across.
That looked buggy as hell, but it was a brilliant play. He's got away for it, got his man up, charged back across, and they managed to find the Blackbeard as well. SSG up to map point.
Not quite sure what happened there at the end. The R6 dashes back in, and I'm thinking, no, he's gonna get both here.
Yeah,
but
I'm
Ashen
not quite
manages
sure.
to just about peek around that corner.
I imagine what they wanted to do is
kill.
have one disabled while one is covering, but
it just all got a little bit close there. They lined up, and you could just see how Souls was going to get both. But SSG, reasonable finish to the end of the round. A little bit hairy at times, but a great retake. Absolutely great retake. Getting it just shows the importance of the verticality there. It's this bit. Forest comes across. I'm like, it was so close. But they had the third option, but the third man inside a workshop is never going to make it back across. And those laughs tell me that SSG know that was a little bit closer than maybe it should have been.
Such a stinger for Souls, man, as well. Like, I feel bad because he's played the Blackbeard this whole half, but he's clearly not winning his gunfights. And even when he has got the Blackbeard, he's getting a single kill, shooting someone as they're running in front of him and not actually firing back. And then he gets into a spot where he's got a clear line of sight to the diffuser and still can't find himself a kill. It's one of those maps I'm sure that he'll be very quick to forget as the longer this tournament wears on. But still potentially a very long series ahead of us. And you know, we could even turn around and see the unexpected, that SSG take this 2-0. And many were looking at this series and saying, you know what? We can see a FaZe 2-0 coming out of this.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's fair to say after SSG struggling to get past Wolves yesterday, you looked at it and thought, you know, FaZe are one of the favourite teams for the tournament. We have to say it. You know, that's the reality.
Team wasn't.
You know, that's the reality that they're up against. But SSG have come out with a fantastic opening performance on board here. They've really put FaZe to the sword. They've taken the opportunities when they've been there, and this could be a really solid 7-3 win. And you start looking at it and thinking, right, okay, game on.
I say it quite a lot as well, but coming into a game day, a team can be 50% better or 50% worse than what you're normally used to seeing for them. And I think in this game, you're seeing SSG, you know, playing considerably better than they did yesterday, and FaZe playing arguably considerably worse than we saw from them yesterday. You know, SSG were remarks on it on the attacks. Nothing really went right for them or Wolves on the attacking halves of the match yesterday. But this, I think that first half has been such a turnaround for SSG that put them so far in the lead already. You know, 4-2 half was absolutely brilliant, that they just look extremely commanding. And again, a very different team to what we saw yesterday. The team play is on point.
Something that I will say, that I always do say, and I think is important at this stage of the tournament, whoever ultimately goes on to win SI24 will have a bad day. Guaranteed. What it's about, every team will. What it's about is placement of that bad day. You can't choose it, but you need it to come at the right time. Look at W7M in Atlanta. They lost one of the group stage games, and we were sat looking, going, are W7M going to go on and win this thing? You know, like they've lost the game, maybe they should have won. And so it's not always the end of the world, you know, to come into a game. Don't get me wrong, you know, this wasn't a dead cert, and FaZe haven't lost anything yet, but coming in here and, you know, not picking up the win on the second day, if that's going to be your bad day, it's not the end of the world. Cyber manages to get a second, taking down Ashen, but look at that double from hot and cold to bring us back to 3 versus 2. They do have a Monty to deal with, but consider it dealt with.
Vidaking, hello? What's going on? Still come down to a 2v1 for FaZe. A strange round. Like, the fact that Asher could even crouch walk out into the main hallway was a bit like, eh? Like, you guys surely know he's there, and there's 3 of you on this side of the map. You've got a Monty to stare him down. They turn for Asher, and then suddenly Hot and Cold pops out and gets 2 for himself as well. Again, beautiful team play from SSG off the back of each other, playing for those trades, and they make it a 1 for 2. Either way, it's boiled down to a 2v1 for FaZe, and they will get the closeout. And they keep themselves in the game at least a little bit longer. 6-4 now to SSG.
FaZe certainly doing a job on that one, but it was close run. SSG making a great attempt. So we're going to move into round 11, and I think in some ways I would have to say this scoreline is pretty kind to FaZe at the minute. I think SSG could probably have this wrapped up by now, to be honest. But they are sort of giving FaZe that opportunity to get back into it, and that's something that SSG need to be aware of. Get it done now. Don't let them get back to 6-5. Don't let them take you to overtime, because with the way that SSG have performed overall throughout Border, if this were to go to overtime, for example, I think that's going to take a bit of a mental blow to SSG, because they're going to come away knowing that it shouldn't have been that close.
How as we march. Again, Cafe awaits and really eager to see how that map is going to play out. Very fair to expect SSG to start on the defense there, facing the attacking side. Given how this map has gone, it's anyone's guess exactly how it's going to go, but it's going to be far more even than maybe we first assumed. No Castle coming in this time, but we are going to see the Capcan. I think Fresh has already got that on his bingo card.
Yes, there has already been a Capcan kill, Capcan trap kill, an EDD kill. Always a good position if you've not used those before. Give them a whirl. If you're on Border and you're playing Capcan, you can put traps on the archways that are in the 90 corridor. And because they are doorways, but they kind of don't feel like doorways. They just feel like they're part of a corridor. They can be barricaded and stuff. So
yeah, we've seen barricades constantly.
Yeah, this is it. So it's often the sort of forgotten doorways, really. So they're very often not cleared in terms of Capcan traps. So whack them on there, you'll get some success, I guarantee.
We spoke about Border yesterday being one of those more gunfight-heavy maps because you can essentially see from corner to corner, side to side, top to bottom of this map the whole way through, because there are so many soft walls and long angles like that hallway. east stairs, you can see all the way through to the west main doorway and window, not the one that goes in towards Armory Archives, obviously, but the one that pushes in towards security, the doorway and the window there. So the fact that this map is so open, having those small changes made did help improve it somewhat, but now you just see teams making sure they've got the capability to destroy any castles that get brought along. Rip! There we go.
There we go. Bitter King is going to be feeding information about Ashen, no doubt. I think that's why the Monte is positioned as such at the window. They're just waiting for that support to come in. They need to get Ashen pinched here, get him dealt with. They can't allow him to continue sitting in this position because he is at the minute holding up the entire top floor push. He's got FNAT in position to help him. They can't move in through break room door, but Ashen doesn't want to overpeak this. He's got the utility to help him stay in position. Handy will take down Forest. Fultz manages to take down Cyber with a Nitro, though, to level things up.
Waiting on. Oh, but he's been taken out first. Soul's awakened. I said he had a few rough rounds, but he must have heard because he's up to 5 kills now. The whole team starting to come online with KDS dragging them along by the scruffs of the neck. 2 left for SSG. Surely, Tim, after this round, there's a tap timeout coming in for them because they've still got it available and they want to get this done in regulation.
Yeah, absolutely that. It's really starting to look close now as FaZe managed to get themselves back. They're going all the way to 12 and it's not a good round for SSG there, really. FaZe able to just pick them apart. Ashen did prevent that push into CCTV very well, to be fair, but it just wasn't enough because the defense crumbled around him, really, and FaZe were able to find the kills elsewhere.
Sure enough, SSG tac timeout is in case you couldn't tell from the reams of strat books being rolled out and discussed between the team here as well. In case you are new to watching SI, we do have each team with the ability to have a tac timeout for 45 seconds, once per map each. We saw that get taken earlier on in the map by the other side from FaZe, and SSG here have taken theirs right at the crux of it, because if they lose this one, Tim, guess where we're going?
We all know it does.
You don't want to say the word until the moment's
I
come.
don't.
It's almost like a game now that you avoid saying it.
It just, I need it to, I don't want to overuse it. You know, I need it to keep its impact. It's interesting. We'll have to keep tracking it, actually. This is the time to remember. Quite often, or I think almost all events, for some reason, we end up as the pair with the
highest average round count.
with the highest average round count. And certainly yesterday, SSG and Wolves delivered that. We had an overtime there.
We had all 12 rounds, we had overtime, then we had 7-2 to close in the third map,
So we had an awful lot of that one, and this is just starting to shape up as one of those that feels like it could be, you know, exactly the same, that we're going to see plenty of it. I said it at the beginning when it was 1-1. You know, this is what we wanted from these two teams. I had a feeling that it was going to be a really tight, close game. So far, not only has it been a close game, it's been really entertaining. Both teams are really, you know, having their moments, and we've seen some great play. So for me, keep on going. Let's see every round of this that we can.
I mean, if FaZe have turned it back on now and can drag this through to overtime, and God knows what happens when we get to those final 3 rounds, it could turn in to one hell of a series. The only thing I'm slightly nervous about is if FaZe do get back to the standard that we know FaZe are more than capable of playing at. Yeah, the last few rounds have been difficult for SSG to remain too competitive, and I just fear that at that point FaZe will just run away with the game, similar to the game against Wolves yesterday. And the main note that I took down from that series yesterday is that it feels like SSG are very... It's almost like they're lost at sea, and the currents around the tide is the other team. They don't really have too much control over a game, really. It's down to the other team. If the other team isn't playing super well, SSG capitalise on that. If the other team is playing well, SSG just can't quite meet that bar, which sounds really weird to say about a former quarterfinalist team, but as a reminder, they only just about squeaked into that spot from Swift and then got knocked out pretty quickly by FaZe. So I just want to see a bit more sharpness from SSG overall, and it's the first time I've really had any criticism to levy against them in this game, but I said the same yesterday. We need to see some sharp, pointy sticks coming out of this team, some hero players that can work a bit of magic when the chips are on the table.
That's a big snag there for the Bravo drone, managing to get that FNAT captured that is going to allow them into break. If Ashen isn't aware of that, it could be dangerous because he will think he's not likely to be pushed. I think he will now know, shoots out the FNAT, so knows that it might be time to consider dropping away.
And one thing to note, we spoke about this a bit on B-Stream yesterday, in case you are coming back to Siege after a while, Ash can now destroy mirror windows at range. Drilling gadgets, so Carly and Ash can shatter them at distance. So it tends to be now when you see a mirror on side, you might see a Twitch, you might see an Ash, you might even see both. Either way, can destroy it at range quite securely, as you saw just a second ago, onto that 90 mirror.
FaZe have done a really good job there of clearing out CCTV. It's allowing them also now to play on the sort of waiting room balcony. They're getting themselves established on that east side of the map, and they can start to push their way across. Vitaking's just looking in through the breach, feeding information, whilst SSG, they drop away. They've got a couple underneath, and they're trying to hold on at the minute. 1 minute 10, though, is going to be a long time.
I wouldn't say they're so much scared, but SSG's comp in this round is so defensive as well. I was going to speak about it around start, but forgot. Outside of Forest, everyone wants to be on or around site, and you can see it. Well, we can see it on our top down at least. Outside of Forest, everyone is sat on site, very tightly grouped together, able to play for trades, and this is letting FaZe sort of manipulate the defense and get ready to execute where they want to hit. And here, that looks to be West Main with Vidaking. He's the one with Diffuser in back pocket, but his cover in Souls has gone. J9O has just deleted him with the Vector.
Really important kill from J9O there. Might just have won the map, to be honest. Manages to get a second onto the Monty as well, and the slippery slope gets even slippier as Handy now finds himself last alive. 1v4 takes a little bit of damage off J9O, but there is not likely to be a positive outcome for him here. 20 seconds, he's searching, he's seeking, he wants those kills, but he's unlikely to find them because SSG, they are not going to overcommit here. You can see them just sitting back. They know they've got all the crossfires that they need. They take the challenge. Handy finds Forest, but 7 seconds left and 3 kills needed. It's not going to happen. Hot and Cold is the one to step up and find his man. SSG close it out, maybe slightly closer than they would have liked, but 7-5, that's a win on border.
100% closer than they would have liked, I think, Tim. 7-5, given how that first half went, not forgetting it was a 4-2, and it really coming down to attack timeout just before that last round to say, right, boys, enough running around the map, we're going to hunker down. Only Forest offside because his gadgets have been dropped down the ADS, he can afford to get out. Everyone else was playing in twos on either side of that top floor, and I feel for FaZe, they didn't really have enough decisiveness about them. You know, Souls was kind of like, okay, he's on half wall, what's going on? And that left Vidaking entirely by himself. And Forest did get that little couple of kills coming up main stairs as well. Overall, I think FaZe will be gutted because they did a really good job in that second half to almost pull it back.
Yeah,
but
they did.
Can't ignore the numbers. SSG at 1-0.
No, ultimately, I think, like I said, maybe a little bit closer than SSG might have liked, but I think mentally they take a good victory away from that Intermap 2. You know, I think a lot of people will have expected FaZe to come in here and maybe even roll over SSG a little bit, but SSG have stood tall, they've turned up, and it's been a great performance so far. I'm looking forward to more of this.
Well, let's go to a break. When we come back, the desk will break it down for you ahead of Cafe. See you in a few.
All bark, but some bite, that's for damn sure. SSG, they take the map 7-5 on Border. A really entertaining match, all things considered, Fox.
Absolutely. The back and forth, the different styles of play, random assortment of operators we saw from both sides. It was very interesting, and it was a beautiful Border matchup.
4-2 first half, Anne.
Yep.
You know, it was looking really good for SSG. Obviously, they were feeling quite confident. It was 4-1 up until that last round of the half. Do you feel like that was the pass mark for them? Do you think that maybe they even deserved a 5-1?
Yeah, potentially. I feel like it was a really good first half, of course, of SSG. We talked about how this is one of their best attacking maps, and attacks can really make the difference with this current tournament being really defender favored. I think the way they set up their attacks was really really interesting, really good to see. We like to make fun of the split theory, or we talked about it in the green room as well, like, oh, there's a split theory thing going on. But essentially what they were doing is like they were taking multiple parts of the map and putting these pressure points on the fence. We saw, for example, the Knock as well doing that solo clear, just trying to make sure they get that information. And FaZe at some points were just being really passive. They were letting SSG come towards them, and especially those entries as well, really important. The entry conversion was a big thing in this game too. It felt like every single time someone was able to disrupt someone else's process, they were able to then pull out the round towards them as well. And
one thing that you mentioned to me, Fox, was, and you've kind of mentioned it there, and the adaptation from SSG bringing different operators to help with that, you know, taking of different locations on the map, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it being all about the attacks, and off the first round, we saw SSG go for a very simple take, very default take, just to see how FaZe was working. Didn't work, and then after that, they started abusing the Brava knock.
Yep.
They started really getting into the map in any way, shape, or form that they could find, and just trying to isolate the roamers. FaZe tried to respond by then turtling, and SSG was still so good at finding those picks and playing in the position that was allowed to them. And we were like joking about the split theory thing, but that's really how SSG was playing.
What was the difference between SSG's attack and FaZe's attack? Did you notice anything in particular?
I think the biggest thing was SSG on attack was getting very, very gritty. They were just getting inside the map. They were playing very split up, alone, and thriving on the positions that FaZe were giving to them. They were playing very slow. Whereas on the flip side of things, it looks like FaZe thought that it would be very similar of a play from SSG, and they were waiting for SSG to make the mistakes. Yeah, that's the thing, right? I think it took FaZe a little while to get set up, and they were waiting for these players in CC, for example, to start moving, and every single time we did see SSG move and they were getting caught off from these angles, that's when FaZe would succeed on their own attacks. So yeah, it's a bit of the pressure points that we're talking about. We see some opportunity spotting from SSG on their own defense then to make sure they deal with the way FaZe is setting up on their own attack side. For example, Ashen Peak in that window on CCTV, getting rid of that pressure on that side of the map. But yeah, there were some differences for sure.
We kind of expected this to be SSG. I mean, that's what we were saying leading into this, right? Is this is, you know, an NA kind of map pick, and for SSG, this is somewhere where they thrive and feel comfortable. Do you think they still were sweating a little bit, you know, seeing FaZe come back in that second half, knowing it's attack?
Yeah, I think there was a little stress. I mean, FaZe is better on the attacking side, so you had to get as much of a lead, as much of a comfortable lead as you could on defense. And it did look like FaZe was still in it all the way through. They really were on the coattails of SSG. But when you go down that many rounds losing on defense, it doesn't matter how good you adapt. You can't make that many mistakes before it's too late.
I hope everyone can hear that at home. I just pray to God that everyone can hear that as loud and as clear as I can. But there are some individual moments that really change a game, and I know you've got one to talk about.
Absolutely. I mean, Fultz's clutch, especially on defense, was by far the turning point for me. FaZe got very stale, very stuck. They didn't really have any openings, and KDS made those openings. He walked into the site, got a bunch of picks. You thought, oh no, this is the comeback, this is where it starts. But these shots that Fultz were hitting to then stay alive, pick up his teammate, that's just the fundamental of this team, the fundamental from all the players. There's not really much ego when it comes to these players, especially, you know, even though Ashen's screaming, if you talk to him, it wouldn't just be all ego. It's all preparation and effort that they've been putting behind the scenes.
And I think something similar like that happened in a few rounds later as well, where they managed to field a comeback like that, even though a player just walked in and kind of abused that open spot that SSG were having there. I think round 9 was a good example as well. We were like, okay, well, this is looking really good for FaZe. They're setting Sims up. They got that plant on the workshop door, and then we were like, okay, well, it's time to start coming back towards the side. SSG, they had a bit of a man disadvantage, I think, going on as well.
Yep.
And they finally managed to get it back. I mean, it looked a bit silly on the workshop door with the whole R6 dash and everything, but they managed to get the round back. And if you get those rounds back, you get them on the board, and eventually you'll lead to having that 7-5 round.
Some pretty crucial rounds, right?
Yeah.
That really went their way on the back of those moments. But it is time for us to turn our attention to the next map. This is one that you've already prefaced, Fox, as... I mean, this should be the most comfortable map that FaZe can go to.
I mean, absolutely. We say it time and time again. Cafe is just a map that's very comfortable against FaZe. With FaZe, a lot of the Brazilian teams play a different dynamic style where they're very aggressive, especially on defense, on more of a turtle-heavy map.
Yep.
So when you are able to switch, you know, the levels, especially with the last nade change, it's very crucial that you have to get active on defense. So FaZe is very covert on the way that they play Cafe.
With the struggles that we've seen SSG have on their attack end, is this a bit of a warning sign going into Cafe? Do you think that this could potentially be their unraveling?
Well, I think for Cafe, once again, it's where attacks really will start to make the difference.
Yep.
And if we look at the stats on recent history for that, then FaZe actually have a pretty decent attack and win rate, despite this map being a Cafe, which could be defender favorite if you have a really turtled setup.
Yes.
You have difficulties dealing with that. So yeah, potentially, it's going to depend on who's starting, of course, on what side, considering it is FaZe's pick. You'd imagine that SSG start out on defense. Hopefully for them, they can continue that momentum and at least get a good few rounds on the board, that they have that bit of buffer once they go on attack.
Very quickly, are we going to map 3?
I think we're going to go map 3.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope so, because if we don't, I will be absolutely shocked. I will come back on this and I'll go hopping. I'll tell you that much. It is time for us to get into our matchup. It's Cafe. It's Ace and Des.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said there, mate. Ashen was screaming the whole time. What was that? Oh, we're going live now. Right, got it. Okay. He is so noisy.
He really is. We love it.
Jesus Christ. There's a reason why the other 4 are pretty quiet. It's because Ashen's got enough gob about him for everybody else on that team. But welcome back, as you can see. Ready for map 2. Cafe is coming up. Now, Border was a tale of two halves and not quite clear cut down the middle at round 6 either. It was the half where FaZe were basically invisible, with the exception of KDS, and the half where they were present. And outside of a brilliant defensive round being pulled up by SSG in round 12, we could have been going through to overtime. So what we're going to see here on Cafe, heaven knows, the Des believes it's going to be a map 3 job, Tim. Are you feeling the same, or do you think it's done in 2?
I don't know. I think about SSG on Cafe yesterday. They did very well on defense. They went 5-1. They struggled to win attacks, but then they allowed that clutch situation at the end from Wolves that lost them the match in overtime, essentially. So they went to overtime with a team that is good on Cafe. So I think SSG are more than capable of winning this one. They start on the defense. You know, if they can play anything like they did against Wolves, they should have a strong 4-2, 5-1 half here to kick things off. So, you know, much as Anne said, that's going to give them the buffer then when they move on to the attack and try and get those rounds. The big downside for them, of course, FaZe in their prep yesterday, I'm sure will have watched that VOD and will have already seen what SSG are bringing on Cafe. So it could well be that FaZe read into the game really well. We'll see how it develops. Our bands are running in. We've got Montagna, we've got Grim, we've got Azami all banned out.
The Grim one's an interesting one. I think it was expectation coming into the competition that we would see a lot of Grim being employed, and we have seen him so far. Been put to task by pretty much every team at some point on the attacking side of things. I was curious how it stacks up in terms of overall bans, and as you'd expect, we haven't really seen it banned historically, given it's only recently he's become as prominent in the meta as he has. Defensive side, Falcon Azami, as you say, does mean things like the Fenrir and the Solus are left open, and you're going to see exactly those two operators picked up in this first round.
SSG are going to be taking us down to the bottom floor to kick things off. I think it looked like it was going to be Kitchen that would be the site of choice. No surprise, SSG pretty much abandoned the top floor against Wolves yesterday. They were using Train, they were using Reading, and they were using Kitchen as their 3 sites of choice. We'll see whether they give that top floor a whirl again or not today, but the fact they've started down at the bottom suggests possibly not.
I know. Well, you know, you'll love your bar and cocktail, Tim. You're delighted seeing teams go.
Like it.
Because we saw it yesterday, actually, on this exact map. Well, obviously on this exact map between SSG.
That was the side that attackers won.
Yeah,
the
only one they won, and everything else on the second rotation, so the second quarter of each half, we saw the teams go from Reading, then across to Mining, and then to Kitchen, swerving bar and cocktail entirely.
Yep.
So piece by piece, Tim, they are learning. Don't worry.
It's just never. I've said it, and I've had like teams message me and say, "Why do you hate those stats so much? Like, we like it." And I'm like, "You might like it, but the stats are terrible on it. Stop defending it. The numbers don't lie."
You're not wrong. In we step then, with that ram on side. It's always the big giveaway of what a team's plans are strategy-wise. There's not the most useful when you're trying to go laterally, but vertically, well, there is no one better for the job. Cyber looking to probably get above sight here, drop down those rams and open everything up from above, really restrict the defenders on site itself. Just in case he goes down, there is the sledge available for a little bit of an insurance choice, and it feels like the first time in a long time, Tim. I say that, we saw it back on the first map in one round as well. 4 frag grenades being brought along. Nowhere near as lethal as they used to be. You can't cook them anymore, but very good for getting rid and burning through utility still.
A lot of droning going on from FaZe then. This is going to be a top floor clearance all the way down. A classic cafe take, if you will. Forest on the Solace does manage to clear out the drone, but will take a few tickles of damage from the hatch as the bullets rain down from Cyber. They know that he's there, but the question is, can FaZe deal with him? It's all well and good knowing the location, but you got to go in and win that fight. The spray comes through again, but no more damage onto Forest. He managed to wriggle away through Pixel, gets himself into washroom, and he's just going to keep himself in that position for now. The problem is FaZe don't want to keep throwing drones away. They need to find him, which they have, but they need to keep hold of those drones as well.
And the problem is there's no one to capitalise, right? There's no one ready on Noob Out. There's no one sat on White Window. There's no one really anywhere to pick him up when he retreats back, and he's slipped through the net there because the net hasn't been closed in time.
So much time wasted by SSG as well, and Forest gets a kill. This is great from SSG so far.
Forest is playing it to perfection. Oh, finally gets pushed out. As I said, there was no one
Doesn't
there to
even matter
capitalise.
though.
It doesn't, because he's wasted 2 minutes. He's gone 1 for 1. He's taken down the Hibana, so no hard breach available onto the freezer hatch, which spells absolute disaster for the side of FaZe.
Great play from Forest there. Love the setup, love the way he's played it, kept himself slippy and done a fantastic job. They're now getting the verticals open, but they're about 45 seconds late in doing so. FaZe are going to be massively rushed at the end of this round unless they can just happen to get a couple of lucky kills. But look at what SSG have done. Now the verticals are opening up. There's not one of them in sight, I don't think, or if there is, they're right at the back of sight. They're just keeping themselves out of there now. They don't need to put themselves in harm's way, and they're going to wait for the push to come through.
Playing in proximity to site rather than the site itself, absolutely. You saw this a lot back on Coastline in the day when teams were trying to get into Kitchen, for example. Here, though, a two-sided push comes in. It's Souls and Handy stacking up for a 2 versus 1 and coming out on top. If they manage to smash and grab this round, Tim, it is absolutely criminal. Fultz goes down 2. Inside of Sushi going for the plant. 1 more hits the deck. There is 1 less standing, but can he see his man? They've pulled off an absolute bank heist there, Tim.
They really have. FaZe have stolen that round, and all credit to them. You know, what a fantastic... 40 seconds left to go. They're just about opening up the verticals, and then they just go in and find every single kill, and that is an alarm signal for me for SSG there. They've played the round well. They've wasted 2 minutes on the roam. Forest's got a kill. They've kept themselves away from danger, but then they've lost every critical gunfight coming onto site and not been able to prevent FaZe walking in to a position to execute. And for me, if SSG are going to do that much right and still lose the round, they're in trouble. Because on the rounds where they maybe, you know, it's not quite as clear-cut a defense, it's going to be an even bigger struggle.
Completely agree. I don't think I've seen a first 2 minutes of a cafe round go as badly for the attackers as maybe that round. You know, being run around the ringer by a single player as well. It was just Forest up there, no support. And I mentioned in the round there was no one there to capitalise or close in. They had Vitter King rounding in by himself about 20 seconds after Forest had already backed out of bathroom. So just a little bit slow on the uptake there, whereas again, I go back to how SSG attacked on Border. They were so quick at having 3 or 4 players to descend on an isolated roamer on the side of FaZe and punishing them for it. Yeah, we've got to see that same pace coming out from FaZe.
Very cautious approaching the building. I think FaZe recognising that SSG want to get a bit aggro here. We saw it out of SSG a little bit yesterday as well, wanting to get up to those windows, have those little peaks, have those lines of sight for FaZe to stray into. But FaZe, they're not playing that game. They're ready. They will punish SSG, I get the feeling, if they continue trying that, if they overcommit to it. So something that SSG definitely needs to be aware of.
Now being extremely aware at this point, FaZe, just conscious of any kind of early aggression. Nothing yet to be found, and again, the same sort of thing is going to come out here, where it's going to be about the vertical control. One less floor to worry about here. It's just that top floor. Get control of that. Ram does the business. They start focusing on the execute.
If you're wondering why the player just spun themselves for the upside-down rappel as soon as they started going up to the roof, then it's because you can't get the angle a lot of the time onto the run-out. If you're the right way around, you can't get the angle, whereas being upside-down does allow you, so that's quite often why they will do that to go up to the top floor. So again, something you can probably take away for your own game, just to improve your chances of survival. Ashen then on the warden underneath, not going to be flashed out, going to keep himself active on that top floor. I like this from SSG. There's a presence across all 3 floors. Again, it's playing into that idea of wasting time. You got Hot and Cold on the Solace, down on the bottom floor. You've got Ashen up on the top floor, trying to keep a hold of the verticals, but KDS, he's going to shut down Ashen. That's going to give top floor control over to FaZe, and they can start opening up those verticals. They've got plenty of time as well. This is looking good for the Brazilians. Straight out 1v1 being 1. C4 goes skyward, going to find absolutely no one, and they will try their very best to get this one out, at least delayed for a few more seconds. Far from the end of the world, though, as you can see, it's already looking like a bit of a construction site up inside a piano. A lot of the floor being opened up. The same story now going on inside a bar. Renovation works are underway, and that will restrict the movement of the defenders. So similar to the last round, you're going to have to see SSG step away from at least the mining site here and allow some more room in for FaZe to start making ingress and going for an execute. Yeah, the problem with the drop here, you're not going to really drop from the piano hatch, because if you haven't cleared out dining, SSG are just going to hold lines of sight and shut you down as you do. So they're going to need some more control. The idea is going to be to try and force those players out of dining and create that little bit of space. So we can see there's a presence on white stairs as well, and J9O is holding the exact angle that I was talking about, in from behind the bomb chassis and just trying to prevent the progress. I think FaZe are likely to look at getting inside of train, which is exactly what they're able to do, inside of mining, and that's where the defuse is going to attempt to go down, but unsuccessfully.
Well, they sort of read into this as well. Managed to get rid of the player inside the kitchen is down, but Hanko's back up, and its soul is down there. So no matter what happens now, they're going to know when this is going through. Even if they manage to find themselves the kills, there is nowhere near enough time. That closing C4 from Forest secured the round for SSG.
Yeah, better round from SSG there. Kept tight control of things. Lost the man on the top floor. Ashen went down, but it wasn't the end of the world, because, as I said, they had the angles that they needed to stop those drops, to stop those plants. And FaZe never really did anything about those. They weren't able to move J9O, for example, from the back of dining. It was always a constant problem for them. And this is something that, you know, we've seen it in the first couple of rounds now. Those executes for FaZe are being left late in the round. It's not the end of the world, but the problem that the 2 problems with that. Often it means that it's a bit of a Hail Mary. You've got to the last 10 seconds, you know you've just got to try and get in and put the diffuser down. So maybe the conditions won't be ideal. Maybe you've got players underneath that are going to cause you a problem. The other issue with planting so late in the round is you've got one roll of the dice. If that diffuser goes down like it did then, you don't have time to go in and have a second chance, have a third chance. You can't give yourselves those other opportunities. So FaZe maybe just need to try and pick up the pace a little bit here, but it's difficult on a map like Cafe because it's so big. There's so much of it to clear out.
It's like a repick in for Handy across the DKB. Not really surprising overall because DKB is so strong, but maybe more specifically here because they have droned out the fact that there is an echo on the other side. Hot and Cold with those yokai drones. Now, with the DKB, when she calls the number, everyone has to get off cams. Can't sit on the yokais, can't do anything. So saving one of those global calls to every single defender. No mute on sides. They won't be able to block it either. And he's also found it as well.
Nah, you can't let that happen.
And the DKB's gone, so now suddenly Hot and Cold is like, well, I'm free to do whatever I want here. Thank you very much.
You cannot let that happen, FaZe. We saw them so cautious of peaks at the beginning of the round. Ashen's played the game well there. He's taken the barricade out. He's left the glass. FaZe have come around. They've not noticed it, and they get slammed, and that is a big loss for them, not 15 seconds into the round.
It's a funny one because in ranked you kick yourself for it. At this level of play, it's like it's just...
But we still have attention.
It's unforgivable in a way. Yeah, if you're aware of it and you go for a gunfight and you lose, fair play.
Fair enough.
But being completely caught unaware when you're on such a critical operator this round is, again, at this level of play, unforgivable.
And think about the beginning of round 2. They were going around every corner, ADS, looking at doors, looking at windows. This time, they've just run out. A little bit of a mistake from FaZe there. But we will see how the rest of the round continues. Like you say, it just gives SSG that bit more freedom, especially when they're trying to hold on to this top floor as well. It is a reading room site, so they're going to try to keep hold of those verticals for as long as they can. You know that there's one on the white window, repel, and they're not going to be over-peaking that.
A real summary for FaZe so far is it has not been the FaZe that everyone would speak of from previous competitions. You know, the last 2 years, they finished 3rd, 4th at bar 1 or 2, pretty much every competition they have been top 4, if not in the grand final, including the win that, of course, we saw them go through at Sweden. And grand finalists before that at Berlin as well. Back, you know, it feels like a long time ago now, but they are a quality team. But missed droning, for example, not being able to pinch onto a player, everything feels like it's a bit off for them today. And it's bizarre to see. I mean, SSG are capitalizing beautifully, but it doesn't feel like the FaZe we're used to seeing.
Not at the moment. We'll see if it improves as things go on. Let's not forget SSG are on the defensive cafe. We saw 2-5-1 halves for defenders yesterday, so we do expect SSG to come out the better here. It's just when you have those mistakes like getting hit by a
it's the fundamentals that really hit.
That's the thing. It's okay losing the rounds, but you don't want to lose somebody in the first 15 seconds, for example.
Yeah.
KDS is trying to push it through Lumber. He's going to get taken out by Fultz on the shotgun. Can't take that close range engagement. Walked into the trap. It's Vita King, the only one left alive, comes around the corner. Flawless round for SSG.
Well, very convincing from them. Again, just we went from the spawn peak to chewing through the drones coming in from the other side. Like, absolutely everything was just taken back and back and back from FaZe. Every small error, unforced error admittedly, that was put into that round, SSG capitalized on. So playing it exactly how they need to. 2-1 to them after that first quarter, which means we'll now see that same 3-site rotation, starting with Kitchen down on the first floor. Now, obviously last time round, they started the round beautifully. FaZe lost 2 minutes chasing after one player and only went 1 for 1. They haven't even started opening any verticals, but they still managed to get away with it. Go on, Tim.
There's another person who'd already come round the corner. Look at the window. Anyway, we move in towards round 4. We're going to see the defensive rotation start over again for SSG. They're going to be heading down to Kitchen. I think if I'm SSG, I'm looking at this and I think, just do the same thing again.
Yeah.
It actually, I know they lost the round, but it actually worked really well. They burnt 2 minutes on the roam. And to be honest, just lost a bunch of gunfights as FaZe tried to push their way into side. You know, if Hot and Cold, and I'm not criticising Hot and Cold here, it was, end of the day, he lost gunfight, it's fine. But if he holds on to Bakery counter, when he gets double pushed through double door as the Warden, if he picks up a kill there and holds on to Bakery counter, that round's won. That's how close SSG were to getting.
You can see them getting caught by this as well.
So
you can see it. You can just see it, can't you?
Yeah, you really can.
I don't think he'll stay because they haven't rushed to the building, for example. No doubt from last round being far more cautious. But if he hands this out, come on, boys, surely not.
Well, we've seen it before.
I want the
We've seen
freebie.
it before when you go for the double. They haven't this time. Hot and Cold's moved away. Ashen's going to hold on. But we have seen it before where you send one out and teams think, right, we're okay now. And the second one comes out and gets them. So, you know, it sometimes can be worth it.
I'm seeing no ram, which suggests you might just get a lateral push coming here. They'll say, forget about the verticals. We just want to go direct to site. And the fact there's now 3 of them at least remotely around this side of the map out towards Bakery. 2 of them here, of course, pushing in. Also the other one rotating up towards North Bakery window has now moved away to front door. I thought you might just see them say, you know what, it worked last time, let's just go straight for that. And even baited beautifully by the Frostmat.
Yeah, I think FaZe largely saying, you know, let's forget about the top floor roam. If they want to leave 2 or 3 people up there, fine, we'll just rush and push site. But as you say, it's just not really worked out for them because Hot and Cold's kept a great angle there. He's also challenging KDS here on this main door. He's not going to allow him in for free, but saying that, KDS does walk in for free, manages to get a kill from behind, and FaZe are doing exactly what I suggested they might, and they're saying forget about the roamers, let's push the site and deal with them as the roamers have to come back, and that's exactly now the position that J90 finds himself in. He needs to go back, he needs to be almost the attacker, the aggressor onto site. Castle is up above and is going to get a great kill. Forest has been fantastic on the roam so far on Cafe.
They could still probably hold this. I don't know if they know that
if
both
they've got
players...
the vertical, they can.
I don't know. They've abandoned vertical now to come back and play for trades, which I think is quite smart, knowing there are 2 players probably grouped up now pushing in for an execute, which is exactly what they've done. But the rotation coming in has been air jabbed off. They'll probably have to go through Coat instead, and that's exactly the angle that Souls is holding.
Plant is going down and will be successful. Souls gets one, can't quite find J9, who doesn't get his man. King shuts him down, and that's going to be a successful round for FaZe, including a nice little plant along the way. And I like that from FaZe. Yeah, I think they recognise round one, we kind of got away with it. We went in and won some gunfights, but it was, you know, maybe a little bit closer than it should have been. But so this time, we're not playing into the run. We're not going to waste 2 minutes trying to get control of the map. If they want to stay out there, that's fine. We're just going to do the same thing that we won with in round one. We're just going to do it at the beginning of the round, and that is we're going to walk in, take gunfights, and win inside of sight.
Through hook or by crook, they've managed to win that downstairs twice now as well. Again, the first time it felt unforgivable that SSG would let that round slip. That one there, a little more forgiven, admittedly. FaZe, I think, were, although slow, very decisive in trying to make this push work, and it did, come to fruition. SSG not quite able to adapt to the speed they needed. That flick onto Forest was horrible to play. And it was like a mid-spray flick as well as like a straight flick one tap. It was a, I'm already firing, whoop, snap, and then back to firing straight into coat again. It's good stuff from Souls, who is going much better this map than the previous one.
We will be moving on to round 5, and it will once again be mining and dining that we will be going to.
5 seconds
Top floor coming in from SSG. A lot of setup up there. Castle going to try and keep hold of Piano by the looks of things. And maybe doing that. Yes, going to do that at distance. So they've got the mirror window in Cocktail for Forest. They've got the wall opened up in front, and they can look all the way from Lumber across into Piano. So it's going to make it very difficult for FaZe to get themselves established in there. Looking at the side of FaZe, they don't have anything to really deal with that mirror window. I was wondering maybe get an Ash in there. As we've said, can deal with them very well at distance, but that's not going to be the case. But I look at the Amaru of Handy, and I'm wondering, are we going to have a little freezer hatch or even a dining window zip in with the Amaru? King has the diffuser in hand at the minute, so unlikely. But if that changes hands over to Handy, you keep your eye out for that one.
I think overall, just the comp they've got along just screams that everything is built around the Amaru, the chaos of the Ying, the DKB, everything just says it's going to be about that moment. Where he chooses to make the play is anyone's guess. We'll find out very shortly, I imagine, as they start gearing their way up. It can be in through the window. You need a lot of smokes to make that happen. They've got 2 smokes and obviously a bunch of candelas. It can be up through the hatch. In which case, like you say, needs to go through freezer. So they have got options, but at the minute, not really seeing it orchestrated too much to say that. Cold's coming out, Ying's coming out, everything's coming out. In we go, Tim.
The Amaru will dive in, and it will be unsuccessful. Hot and Cold is more than ready, takes down Handy. Ashen is downed along the way up on top floor, though. Cyber will try and move across and get that clearance, but King gets taken down underneath. Likely going to be a second death up there, as Ashen will be finished off by Cyber, so that leaves us effectively 3 versus 3. And SSG are a little bit back to the wall here. FaZe are managing to keep the pressure on them. It's KDS to finish off Ashen, and that does level things up within the round. This has been a speedy one, but Cyber is down and likely to be finished off. Full shot after shot, can't find him. It's going to be Forest to clean that up.
1-for-1s everywhere between these two teams. Ultimately, though, SSG are out on top at 3-2. It's going to be a bit of a tall order, I think, for KDS and for Souls. Now, again, everything kind of rode on that execute of the DKB, the Ying, and the Amaru working in tandem, but Handy just gunned down as soon as he started moving. I think they were probably expecting the Amaru to go elsewhere, and the fact that they heard it coming in through the double window was like, oh, okay, then I guess we just shoot him. He's not nowhere to hide. So they managed to deal with the initial push quite well, and so far have cleaned up nicely from this. But Souls with a horrible shot. Sick again.
Souls, that was absolutely beautiful. KDS, he's just trying to peek in through reading. He knows that there's one insider there, but just cannot find the angle. Souls once again going for the look. Fultz will pick up KDS, so it's all up to the clutch master himself. Souls 1v2, 20 seconds left to go. We know he's capable. He's going to stray into a line of sight if he's not careful, though, when he tries to get that diffuser. Does manage to get it. There's an opportunity for him here. It's going to take a long rotate for Fultz to get across, but I can tell you he's already moving.
He's trying to get across. They'll get the side angle from here as well, and it'll be a nice easy closeout for SSG. Well played at the end there. A little bit scary for a second when Souls hit that scary shot through to Fireplace to bring it down to a 2v2. But SSG get that close. The one thing, again, I'm nervous about a bit is it's 3-2 on the defensive side for SSG. FaZe get this round here, and I know they've kind of, again, stolen a couple of rounds, it feels, down on the ground floor, but that sets us up for quite a scary second half and may well propel us to that map 3 the analysts thought we'd get to.
Yeah, from the NA point of view, you've got to look at it and say, you know, this is a map that SSG struggled to get an attack on yesterday. They only won 1 attack here on Cafe. You know, at the minute, they're going to have to win a minimum of 2 if they want to take it even to overtime. So FaZe already maybe applying a little bit more pressure than it might actually appear. You know, you look at it and think, well, SSG...
Couldn't believe his eyes. A freebie on Valentine's Day.
You know, SSG, you could look at it and say, well, they've been ahead all the time, they're winning. But are they winning by enough? That is going to be the big question come the end. I thought SSG dealt with the Amaru extremely well. Hot and Cold was more than ready for it and shut down Handy very, very quickly. And that really seemed to break the back of the round for FaZe. It was, you know, obviously that was the focal point of what they were going to do with the Ying, the Amaru, try and get in there, but it just didn't work for them.
Now coming into this next round, Mute Mozzie being brought along by SSG. Almost like a staple operator combo for them over the years. I spoke about it yesterday when we were seeing them play around in Clubhouse. They invented the SSG drone that relied very heavily on those 2 operators. Surely they don't get away with another one though. Tim Jane, I know, for a second at least suggesting there could be a spawn peak on the cards. It's opted to back away, but again leaning in towards this. I think where we've seen FaZe be a little bit weak, as we remarked back in round 1, is on the drone work. Restricting that even further with the Mutant and Mozzie. Great way to capitalise on that weakness.
Ashen's had to dip away from that because of the drone. I was going to say Cyber was up on Rappel. He was in the danger zone. But the fact that, again, that's the due diligence we expect from FaZe. They send the drone in first. I check before I get on the roof, and now you have not been hit by a nitro. That's why I was so surprised that they'd fallen foul of that spawn peak a couple of rounds ago. But for the time being, SSG have got themselves locked and loaded, ready to rumble up on that top floor. They've got 3 trying to hold on to Cocktail, Barback, Storage and Bar to prevent the verticals above sight. FaZe yet to choose a real point of ingress, but Cyber is actually moving into Cigar at the minute, so the challengers are going to come on the top floor. Forest is off to his left though, so just needs to be a little bit careful. I think Forest might actually be underneath him.
He is. That's the option to push at red, but I imagine there'll be a drone down there ready and waiting. C4 up onto New Balk, expecting someone to push around. Not the case. And Cyber gets pushed at the same time, almost trying to distract him with the C4, but Cyber a little bit too good for that at the best of times. Souls into another again, still going strong this map. Second highest fragger on the team. Fultz gets 1 back, a 4v2 for FaZe.
Looking like it's going to be 3-3 on the scoreboard here as we see ourselves now in a 4 versus 1. Ashen's got it all to do from the top floor. Does manage to down Cyber, so that's something at least. Effectively 1v3. Doesn't know that there's a second there with him. And that's going to be the kill for Souls to finish things off. 3-3 on the half. And you got to say, I feel like FaZe have come away with the best of the goods there from the first half of Cafe.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a smash and grab operation for them because I think SSG have played it better. Outside of a couple of... I didn't want to call it scrappy round endings, but close round endings is probably a better way of looking at it, that FaZe have come out on top of. It probably could have looked in maybe round 1 being where they got caught off guard entirely. The other couple of rounds, maybe there's a world there where SSG walk away with those, and instead it's a 5-1. They'll be kicking themselves that they've come out of that 3-3. It's now FaZe on the defense. On their map pick, let's not forget. We'll see if SSG can persevere, because as we remarked yesterday, they played this map 6 times before coming to this tournament, only won it twice. They played it 7 times now to come into this tournament and only won it twice.
KDS providing a perfect example of what I was talking about there, of why sometimes you upside down rappel, especially if you're watching a run out, because it just gives you a greater range of motion.
Have you brought your gaming laptop, by the way?
Of course.
You got Siege on it? Should we play some ranking?
We should definitely.
I'm really in the mood for some ranking.
I'm a little bit scared of playing ranked in Brazil because they're all so good.
All the pros are here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, right, we don't quite play at the level of pros, but...
I just know that as a region, Brazil is so good that I'm probably going to get slammed in rank, but it could be fun.
Could be helpful. Should do it. Let's get a talent stack on the go. Set up in the green room.
It wouldn't be the first time, and it's certainly won't be. Here we go then, we've switched halves. We are into the second portion of the game. FaZe move on to the defense, and immediately they are taking Bar and Cocktail. I spoke about it earlier, it's not my favorite site. Defensively, the stats aren't great for defenders winning this site, but FaZe, they come from a different region. They're from, you know, the Brazilian region. Maybe they bring something a little bit different. Maybe they can do what others cannot.
Alrighty. Immediately straight into getting rid of the castle barricades. Those 2 Escaros I mentioned before, even though you haven't necessarily got soft destruction on it, even when you don't have it. Here we've got the Flores. The X-Kara's function pretty much for the same purpose, given you can just use 2 and get rid of those castle barricades scattered around the map. The mirror also one to watch out for here as well. FaZe leaning back into that operator selection. And I can't imagine we're going to see the Wamai of Cyber hanging around here too long once these walls and castle barricades start getting opened up.
Just going to see the pressure towards Heaven to begin with. Forrest just opening that window. Very aware, Ashen just covering any jump outs potentially for him as well. I think Handy is on the white stairs at the minute, so there's the potential option there. Double nade goes in. Souls managed to avoid it and get the kill. They just didn't expect the aggression, but Fultz is there for the trade. 4 versus 4.
And Ash is there to regain the diffuser. Could have been messy to be fair if Fultz wasn't inside a cigar to watch that window. Souls gets out of there, probably gets a second kill onto Ashen, and then it's all disaster for SSG. So well played on Fultz to have that covered.
Attackers dropped the diffuser.
Still SSG working around the rooftop. 1 minute 10 left to go. Not got themselves established inside of the map realistically yet. Piano is still in the possession of... It's not, I'm going to say in the possession of FaZe. They've got 1 at Pixel, but that's about it. Fultz is just looking to try and get in there at the minute. Cyber taken down well by J90. 3 versus 3 as the kills rain in. 1 for 1 for 1 for 1. 2 versus 2 as SSG have managed to walk into the middle of site. There's 45 seconds to go. They could do this.
And they've got the diffuser as well, so they could probably... They've got run of the site here. The problem is, always on this site. Downstairs, C4s with a Solis down there. And they've got an impact to make use of as well. This could all go so wrong. They've got to be quick, though. This is getting away from them. How
away from them.
They've let it get away from here, Tim. They've gone for that more default spot. It was outside of the rooms. They're playing in, not in readings. So they've managed to smash and grab it a little bit here, SSG. It feels like FaZe have got a hard job to get a retake on.
Yeah, I think so. That's fantastic from SSG. And that all came from taking out the bulletproof camera, paying attention to small pieces of utility like that can win you rounds. Fultz, he's just waiting for this challenge to come. The red ping is there and he manages to find Andy. 2 versus 1 now. Vitaking has it all to do. Can do absolutely nothing as J90 closes it out. And that's going to be the first attacking round to SSG. And they have already done as well on the attack of Cafe as they did yesterday.
And a good attacking round at that as well. I was nervous coming into this half that we'd see a very different SSG to what we maybe saw on Border, but I've mentioned it. To be fair, the word I used to describe them yesterday was decisive. They looked that way yesterday. Maybe not as sharp as Wolves at points, but still very good. And that has translated across today tenfold. We're seeing them even more like it. And against a somewhat, I don't want to say lethargic FaZe, but they definitely feel off the game. SSG are thriving right now. Yes, it's only the first attacking round win, but the small things like Fultz being in the right place at the right time to cover for his teammates was beautiful. We didn't see a lot of that teammate-sided cover coming out of FaZe. It feels like a team playing against 5 individuals, and that's the key difference, I think, in this game.
Fultz is quietly having a great game here on Cafe.
Great series as well.
10 and 4, that's good too. Overall, he's having a great day. 10 and 4 here on Cafe, and to be honest, you know, we've been shouting other names, Ash and Forrest on that team particularly, you know, across the 2 maps. I know Ashen's been a little bit quiet on Cafe.
To be fair, Jane I know was the hero of the last map as well.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. Really well. But Fultz has had some big moments and is really working hard for the team, and at the minute his stat line is showing it, 10 and 4. He's having an absolute field day here on Cafe, and if SSG can take some confidence from that and win a couple more attacks, you start looking at a potential 2-0 here, and I'm just going to double down on it, Des. Top floor site, not held on to by the defenders. That's the 3rd we've seen, and it's the 3rd loss we've seen.
Very good, Tim. Very good.
I'll keep saying it until they stop playing it.
That 0% win rate, Tim, on that top floor. You'll be screenshotting it, no doubt, after the next couple of days and saying, no one's won on it yet. What's going on? Obviously, we don't know maybe what's happened on other streams or games you haven't been casting, but at least what we've seen, it hasn't been won yet. Here we go, though, for Mining. It's going to be the top floor defense, though, to start things off. If it's hard to defend laterally, you play vertically. That is the golden rule of strats in Siege when trying to create ways to defend things. You can get creative, of course, and even attack them or defend them from below. We remember seeing back on Bar and Stage on Clubhouse a wonderful C4 from Doki through the basement. That was a good while ago now, though, now I think about it. This round, at least, J90 starts things off onto Cyber, who has been warming into the series, but he kept quiet in a few of these rounds.
A great start for SSG once again, and I think FaZe, you know, they've got questions to answer overall on the defense. the fact that a plant went down with the Soulless on board, just because, you know, yes, they'd lost the bulletproof cap. They can't allow that to happen. So it wasn't KDS. Souls manages to pick up the kill with a Nitro, but is going to be traded out as Hot and Cold finds him 4 versus 3 again. Yes, SSG
3 players.
are much better at impacting on those deaths and getting those trades. Souls is a real thorn in their side at the minute, though.
And the thing is, although Souls has got a kill immediately, a second later there is someone there trying to go for the trade. The team play is sublime, but he gets away with it. Hot and Cold gets a second as well. FaZe are just falling again in this team versus 5 individual scenario. SSG once again with the numbers advantage, but 2 very healthy members still up for FaZe.
Both of them now back on site. So SSG have got a little bit of time here. They've got 1 minute 5 seconds. They're now back on the drones. It's a little bit of a pause from them to say, right, let's find the utility, let's find the players, and let's decide where we're going to go for this execute. Forest has the fuser in hand, so they've got what they need, but the problem that SSG face is low hit points at the minute. J9 Forest both below half. Hot and Cold has taken some serious chip damage as well. That's a problem. SSG are going to be kind of keen to find a kill, maybe onto Souls. They're looking for him vertically. If they can find him and get the kill, then the round really opens up for them.
Does for now at least, still hanging down. No C4 to play behind, let's not forget as well. So can't exactly go fishing here whilst they bring down death from above. And I'm looking at all the utility in the back pocket of Hot and Cold here. Fires, smokes, they can lock off areas of the map, they can lock down sight lines. They've got a lot to work with, but they've got to go at some base. And there's super shorty. They've still got him, throws with the hatch. That's it, down to just Souls. The thing is, he can see through smoke. Hot and Cold said it doesn't matter. He's got to ace Tim.
He really does.
Oh
And that's 4. Can he find his 5th? He takes a lot of damage. Forest has to stick this, and he's not going to give him his ace. He comes off the plan, and that is still going to be a round for FaZe, grabbed almost single-handedly by Souls.
Heartbreaking for SSG, and it brings you back to some of those rounds yesterday against Wolves, and I've said it so much throughout this series, like it feels like SSG really lack the sharp, pointy stick to just go and poke the enemy team with. There's no one player that you look at and say, hero, gonna do it all for them. What we just seen in that round there, Souls, the hero, gets a 4K and manages to play that 1v1 really well at the very end. But it wasn't off the back of a team effort, really. Let's not forget, he was getting pressured on Cocktail. He got swung on, I think it was by Fultz, who couldn't quite catch him in time. He leaps out the window, gets back in Snowdoor. It's kind of like he found the one small gap in the armor of SSG and they've just exploited that all round long. He's just played it so well. But SSG, on a team basis, really overall, there's only 1 or 2 things you correct in that round. It's an absolute stinker to lose to Souls there.
We've just seen a perfect example of why Souls is one of the greatest clutch players that we've got in Siege at the moment. He's absolutely unreal in those situations, and it'll give his team such belief. You know, yeah, it might be 1v2, 1v3, but it's Souls. He's going to win it. Of course he's going to win it. Fantastic round from FaZe there, and SSG, I'm sure, going to be kicking themselves a little bit. 3 versus 2 with 1 minute 5 left on the clock, and it just feels like they may be wasted a little bit too much time chasing Souls round on the vertical. There was so much of that floor opened up with the shotty, and it just took so long to try and look for him that it just didn't leave them with enough time come the end.
I think this is the first map, by the way, that we've seen across yesterday and today where SSG have not banned Yink. So understandably, it's being brought along here once again. Saw it used a couple of rounds ago. Ashen's back on it here, not having the best map himself, admittedly, but one thing I was going to remark on a couple of rounds ago, I think he was 1 and 6, and he was still, after every round, giving it full gas. Even though he's not playing great himself, his team is still celebrating everything they're doing well, and it's just a real nice little cute thing to notice about the kind of culture of that team. Your IGL's got your back even when he's not on his day.
Exactly that. It's going to be a kitchen defense this time around. There is a presence from FaZe out in the map a little bit, not so much vertically, but more laterally. They've got themselves out in KDS's setup inside of VIP. That's going to be an important point for SSG to clear out should they try to push from the freezer side once they get that vertical control. It may be that they just opt for Bakery and don't play into it, but if that's the case, they're going to have Souls to contend with, and we've just seen what Souls can do in round 8.
Haven't we just? I'm always quite nervous these days when I see an Echo without any kind of counter on the other side. No DKB, no IQ coming along, and I'm just like, yeah, Handy's playing around Coat, or at least was when I saw him about 10 seconds ago. If he hangs around there and they can pick him off, great. If not, he could be the Doomsday kind of ringing the death bell come the end of this round.
So much work has been done so quickly by SSG. I spoke about them being a confidence team. previously in map 1, and this is what shows, you know, how confidently they've moved through that map once they've got the drones in, straight in behind them, taken the control. If you give them an opportunity, they will grab at it, and so FaZe have got a long time to try and hold on here with a lot of verticality opened up above site now. They really should be an opportunity for SSG to get a diffuser down here.
Single Candela coming in more to try and bait a reaction from the other side. They've still got 3 more in back pocket to make use of, and a single smoke in the back pocket of 4. Oh, we love a toe pick. We love a toe pick. He knows he's being shot, but can't quite figure out where from. Thinking now he's finally realised. Scatters like an ant scurrying back through the nest, but the vertical is still there. Now hot and cold, chooses to strike, runs down, finds one, goes to the second, but Cyber finds his man. Plant's going down though, Tim, and Forrest is going to be able to stick this one the whole way through, it seems, even with 8 players still in the server.
That's it, there is a man advantage for FaZe here, but remember, they don't have any vertical presence. Diffuser is down, this is definitely possible for SSG to hold on to it. J9O, he predicts the flank, Ashen picks up Vitter King, SSG are looking so good in the post plant. J9 in and out of freezer, finding kills. Handy's the left alive, he's trying to take back the vertical. He's now 1 versus 2, but he has so much work to do.
And knows 1 player's there, surely. No, he does not, and Fault steps out, but the close as well. Great execute coming out from SSG. You spoke about the pace and what we saw from SSG versus FaZe when they were on the attack earlier on. Just looking excellent on the side of SSG. There's always that kind of fear that FaZe will just grab around out of nowhere like we saw in the previous round, back in round 8. But SSG once again find themselves in the lead. It's 5-4 going into round 10. This could be a 2-0 and not in the way that anyone would have predicted.
It's starting to look that way now because SSG only won 1 attack yesterday. Coming into this half, I said that's the improvement that SSG need to find is winning the attacks. They've now won 2 and they're looking good for them as well. I love how decisive they were here on Kitchen. It was just like, right, bang, we're going. They got the diffuser down in the absolute nick of time as well. And then the hold afterwards, the post plant from J9O. He gave them absolutely nothing. He knew the flank was coming. He knew the push was coming inside a Kitchen, and he just picked them off 1 at a time. Fantastic from SSG. Pleasure to watch, and we move to round 10.
10 seconds left.
It's always hard to call. Again, it's that kind of like clutch factor of FaZe or the way to nick around in the dying seconds, and SSG having the much superior team play so far today. It makes it really hard, even at this scoreline, seeing SSG in the lead to say which way it is going to go. Going to be reading a fireplace we step into, though, in round 10 as mentioned. Looking towards Capital, that Ying once again. Lots of smokes to drop around site. Well, Candela's, I guess, more than anything else, and a couple of smokes to come in out of hot and cold. Just want to see them really tighten up here, because let's not forget, last time around they gave Souls a lot of 1v1s, let him get to where he was at. And really, as long as they tighten that net around him, because he has been the X-Factor this game, he's at 11-5, complete reverse to what we saw back on Border. I feel if you control Souls, the round is far easier to win.
You got to remember as well, though, you know, the 1 round they've had has been a hero play round. Souls is 11-5, but you take away that 1 round, he's 7-5. It's average, you know. So FaZe, they've got to, yes, get the whole team moving, and they've got to allow Souls to keep doing what he's doing, but we need more from FaZe. If they want to get themselves through to map 3 here, I honestly think it's going to take more. If it just continues as it has been, I expect SSG to take this.
You're going to think of a bit of the bait coming in there. That's they baited the jump out, and that's exactly what they've got. But Souls has got the kill. There's 2 players out there, and the man's got away with it. Got back inside the site. Well, he's back inside the building. Now through into reading and back in sight. Just
big mistake from SSG.
He keeps getting away with it. He can't keep getting away with it.
No, it was a big mistake from SSG, and Souls has taken advantage of them once again. It's something that he's doing fantastically well. He's one of the serious strengths for FaZe right now. Cyber manages to pick up pulse, and honestly, this cafe at the minute is just on a knife edge. You've no idea which way it's going to end up going. Hot and Cold tries to get inside of the building, whilst KDS takes down Ashen, and SSG 2 versus 5 now. I don't think they know that Cyber is in freeze. He's about to take, no, they do, as J9O manages to find him 4 versus 2, but a lot of work yet to be done.
It's not surprising because J9O had the highest KD across this team through all of 2023, but he's having a hell of a series. I know it's been a real war at points, but he's always putting up numbers. Hot and Cold in, gets rid of the clutch master himself. J9O a second. Surely you don't throw a 5 like this, no way. They just about hold on, but imagine if FaZe had thrown a 5v2 all the way down to nothing and being around lost. That would have been nuts.
I think there's a bit of pressure showing on the side of FaZe. You know, I think, like you say, they know that they're in a game here, and they know that SSG are really bringing it, and they're having to really play at the top of the game to get rounds here. 5 versus 2 down to 2 versus 2. Oof! You really don't need to add that sort of pressure to yourself as well. But we're going to head through to round 11. We've got a guarantee of seeing all 12. Honestly, for me, give me some overtime. I want to see this one continue. What a matchup we've got here on Cafe.
That is just bonkers, isn't it?
I don't even know.
Imagine he got the first kill as well.
I don't even know how that's happened. Forrest obviously just unaware of... I don't know.
Everyone wants to go out of that window of field. Souls has been jumping out it 3 or 4 times. It's like, guys, it's the key to winning the game.
Still not Claymore.
Just keep throwing yourself out of it, yeah. And the thing is, in a couple of rounds, they have brought along Claymores for that exact reason. But on the round they don't bring it is when they're being stung.
Yep.
Bonkers.
Big problems.
Absolutely bonkers.
Moving into the round 11 then, we're going to be up to that site once again. Bar and Cocktail. It's going to be the 4th time that Des and I see it. Will it be the first time that we see it won? FaZe, they're going to try to hold on to it again. Looks like there's going to be a good presence inside of Piano, as we would expect. SSG didn't really play into it too much last time. If you remember, Fultz opened things up at the top of Red. Didn't really play in through there. They sort of got a little bit of control of Piano, but they didn't really need it too much. So SSG, I don't think will be too desperate to play in and around those castles.
Assume not, no. Once the other one plays out, then the Solars of Handy, as we've seen so many times throughout the whole tournament so far, will be out and about around the map looking to shut that information game down from SSG, because where they have been strong throughout the series, as we've said a couple of times now, is finding an isolated player and just crushing them as a 3 or a 4. You can't really do that without the information game being strong, so the Solars will always help in towards that. Otherwise, you're leaning in towards a much more defensively sided setup with the Wamai, stacking up around the Fenrir, around the shield of the Warden, around the castle barricades that have gone down. They really want to make this work, Tim, and they're going really defensive, but we've been so nervous at this site so many times.
Yeah, we really have. Cyber knows that there's a little bit of pressure coming from the rappel. His castle barricade has been opened up, but the player is long gone. They are up on the roof. So Cyber will just retire back to Pixel to hold ground behind his shield for the time being. His position is all about slowing down any push coming in that direction. SSG really trying to set themselves up from the rooftop at the minute. Looks like they are going to go for Piano control potentially. That hole being very much bottom left suggests that they're going to try and walk on into Piano. It just gives you the cover as you try to go in. You've got the wall on your left-hand side. KDS is looking to get aggressive out of shot there. I'm not sure if they're aware of his presence or not. There was a drone just there, but it looked like it got taken out maybe before it saw him, but I think that second one will have picked up on his presence.
Well, at least not going down too early in the round, but again, it's that 2-minute mark into the round where we're still kind of sniffing things out and figuring out what's going on. The blessing of this site is you don't need a lot of time in hand. He could have had a lot of success there if he checked it out. Claymore's no doubt down and protecting the windows. J9O getting rid of Cyber, who again is, when he's stayed alive for majority of the round, has had good impact, but he does get completely shut out of it sometimes early on by SSG. They've got KDS down now as well. It's feeling like another round for the North American side if it keeps up at this pace, Tim.
Certainly could be. It's not just going to give them map point, it's going to give them series point opportunity. They could well take a surprise victory 2-0. Souls will get downed. J9O manages to pick up Handy as well. 2 versus 5. Vidaking effectively in a 1 versus 5 as KDS is down but not out, and SSG 30 seconds left to go. Honestly, I'd think about just getting that diffuser down and forcing a play out of Vidaking.
Bless. They did say they were coming for Vidaking, Tim, and he's had a quiet one today. I was going to say at 1-8 it's a bit miserable. At least he gets something from this round, going up to 2-8, but he is the other end of the map. Quite literally, he is outside the building, whilst they are worrying about planting on the other side. How's the Fenrir resistance coming in, but some flashes coming on through, and you got
to feel for it.
In Forest is like, well, what the hell's going on here? Why are you there when we're trying to plant on the top floor, mate? And it's a very fair question to ask. Little chance of recovering this round. Manages to slip past the net around Reading. Actually gets away with 1, but
defender exposed.
Goes out again. I'll see if there's anybody on the rappel this time. No Vidaking, there is not. Okay. This round is just a matter of time at this point. The diffuser is down. There's very little that he can do in the 1 versus 4. Going to take a ton of damage and ultimately be finished off by Ashen. So it is going to be SSG that get that map point opportunity. It will also be series point potentially. They could take a 2-0 win here against FaZe, which would be a real turn up for SSG.
We say it every time we come into an event, just nothing is guaranteed, and you don't know who's going to beat who when it comes, with a few exceptions. You don't know who's going to beat who when it comes to these kind of like Yeah, I think everyone said FaZe are going to be the top team coming out of this group. Easy win for them, no problem, should really be going undefeated. For them to potentially get 2-0 by SSG, who again, they kind of walked over a little bit at the last event. They were top of Swiss versus bottom of Swiss. It's just an absolute turnaround on expectation, and that is why these tournaments are just so fun to watch.
A little bit of revenge possibly for SSG after that Atlanta quarter-final. But yeah, I think I look at SSG and I honestly think they might have had one of the toughest starts of any team.
Yep.
Going up against Wolves and FaZe in your first 2 games. It's
top 2 teams in their group outside of themselves.
It's not an easy start to come into, and you know, you've got to think about the mental element coming in. If you take a couple of losses there in those first 2 games, you've got a 3rd and 4th game that you probably should win, but it's then not a given because you've struggled in your first 2, but they've been against such good opposition. But SSG, I think, have come out, you know, especially today, and they've really shown, you know, some great siege. They've shown us the best of themselves, and I think getting 1 win out of the 2 against Wolves and FaZe is not a bad start to this tournament at all.
Absolutely not, and you can see perfectly a world where it becomes that triangle of all the teams have beaten each other.
Yeah, just kind of.
And then it starts coming down to things like round difference against the other 2 teams in their group, which are Team Bliss and D+.
Yeah. Definitely would say so. And right, here we go. We've got potentially the final round as it will go. Hot and cold, just getting up onto the outside, likely to go East Repel, maybe up to the roof. We'll see where he's going to work from. J9O getting that Ram gadget going. The boogie drone goes in and will start taking those verticals. Again, we saw this last time when SSG attacked onto Kitchen. They were so quick in round 9. They got that verticality, they got that control, and ultimately were able to go in and get the round.
Been a few times that SSG have sort of sold a kipper to the team, really, as well, dropping out a couple of Candelas, dropping a call in from the DKB, and then no one actually moves because they expect it's going to trigger someone like Souls, which it did previously, to jump out of a window or try and get aggressive. This time around, they try and make a play into White, and Cyber was just ready. Hot and cold, taken out for free.
Folks is going to take a little bit of chip damage there. He's going to take an awful lot more as King finds him with the shotgun. 4 versus 3 though, as Ashen manages to find one. 3 versus 3. That could be a big double from Ashen. They are looking at getting themselves over the line here, and those are the sorts of moments that they're going to need.
Massively, and if this is the time when Ashen starts to shine in the very closing round of the map and the series, you're not going to complain about how the rest of it has gone for him. J9O working his way in, 14 and 7 on this map. He was massive on border, as mentioned. Absolute hero series coming out of him. I mentioned they were lacking this player yesterday. Today, they have found it in him.
J9O then going to be working down the brown stairs, just trying to get that presence converted now from mid-floor to bottom floor. They need to think about exactly how they're going to get onto site. FaZe, they look like they are now just locked into position, and that's exactly where they're going to be playing for the rest of the round. They're just sort of inviting SSG to push, saying, come on, you've got to make the move. You're the attackers. You've got 30 seconds left.
Which really isn't a lot of time, but again, FaZe quite isolated here in terms of their players. It's been the real stinger for them throughout the whole series. They've just been collapsed on with no one really able to play trades, and Candela's coming on through. One inside VIP. The question is, do they know? A C4 over the top. That's a pretty critical kill onto, again, the man who's been fragging out this whole series. Unless they get rid of the VIP player, though, Forest is under threat, and they've found him. FaZe have done enough here. Tim, say the line.
We're going to overtime, Des.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we are. 3 more rounds to settle Cafe. This could be one of those series that we were on about that turns into an absolute barn burn.
Honestly, I love it. I'm so excited by this. I wanted to see more of these 2 teams on Cafe. It's been, you know, it hasn't been perfect siege. There's been bits of mistakes on both sides, but they've both come out and won rounds as well, and it's just been so entertaining. It's just that high-octane siege where you know there's going to be gunfights, you know there's going to be hero players, you know there's going to be big moments. Looking at things, 3-3 in each half, so you would argue there is no advantage to being on defense or attack. Historically, I would say that Cafe generally leans to the defenders. Certainly what we saw yesterday, it did, as is all of Siege at the minute, leaning towards the defenders. FaZe will start on the defense.
Oh boy, oh boy. We were saying at the turn of the half, it's so difficult to call which way the game goes, given we've seen 2 very different stories. That kind of 5 individuals versus the team on the other side. And now at this point, it just feels like everyone's just throwing everything into a bowl and just mixed it up, and you're not quite sure what's going to come out the other end. Find out though. Starting up on this top floor, Tim. That's a right nice risky pick on Bar Cocktail for your first defensive round.
It is when they've lost it twice already.
Well, they clearly believe they've got the answer, Tim. That's all I'll say.
I'm not too sure myself. We will see how it goes. We are yet to see this site won personally, Des and I, and it certainly hasn't been today. Attempted twice.
I just know how smug you're going to be if they lose this.
I'm not really smug. I just stop going to top floor. Please. Especially as the first choice. I'm not saying it's a site that should be avoided at all costs, but we're just seeing a better defensive success. In mining, in reading, in kitchen, we're just seeing more success in those areas.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. Mirror for FaZe coming out. We spoke about this a lot. Since whenever available, they will make use of it, at least on sites where it makes sense. But one of the teams that's more of a mirror enjoyer maybe than many others in the competition. Of course, on some maps, you'll see it brought out by the majority of teams. Some of them just don't really at all. FaZe are one of those that enjoy it. Paired up, of course, along with the Solus, as we've seen previously, it does mean you have that C4 and Solus combo that's very good for the denial. They did mess it up last time round, the 2 versus 2 on this site. Didn't quite manage to catch the player that was planting outside of reading and felt a little bit too at risk to go chasing after it particularly quickly. Had to play in the post-plant instead in much more conventional form.
I feel like this is such an important round for FaZe. They've taken a site they haven't won yet. If SSG come in here with an attacking win, you just feel like they might lock it down 8-6 on the defense. And, there's a minute 30 left for them to get it done. They haven't got themselves inside of Piano. There's actually a lot more pressure out towards the east side. They are established in Cigar as well. So SSG certainly trying to sort of squeeze FaZe from everywhere at the minute.
Ashen once again playing out on East. He's terrified of jump outs, run outs, everything, given we've already seen that happen a fair whack throughout this series. In come the Candelas, Forest straight into a full white flash, brilliant. But still manages to march his way forward and find the kill onto KDS. Instant trade coming in from Cocktail. Souls sat inside of Cocktail, watching behind the mirror window as the plank goes down. Nothing to stop this one. It is done, and FaZe have now got to get a retake on Tim.
I love that from SSG, just dumping the Candela into Cocktail. There they go, they finish it off. They dump that Candela into Cocktail to blind the mirror player, and then Forest pushed in at the perfect time. Yes, he ended up full white flashed himself, but it didn't matter. It was about getting in there quickly on the back of it whilst that player on the mirror window was out of action. They got the kill, they got the space. Hot and Cold puts the diffuser down. Great attack from SSG.
And Tim, what site did they lose?
It was the top floor, Des. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but we haven't seen a successful defense up there yet in 5 attempts.
It just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it? The thing is, looking at it from like yesterday, reading, dining and service, kitchen, 100% win rate on the defensive side. Yet teams do keep on trying to make that top floor. Technical issue in his pants, I guess.
We are on a tech pause.
Yeah.
Ashen is quite excited about the last round being won, I think.
Think of it more than just
he just wants to keep going. He knows they've got the momentum at the minute.
Obviously, off camera, we've probably had the admin step in just tapping him to say.
Stop that! Hey, stop that!
Probably had the admin step in and say, calm it a little bit, because he was getting super excited. He was like, okay, yeah, calm down, calm down, calm down. And now it's gone into a tech pause. He's like, I can say what I want. Probably knowing that some of the players also would have their headsets off, as Cyber does here as well. They'll hear every single word coming out of his mouth.
Dear, oh dear.
So I imagine with the noise-cancelling headphones on, like if they've got white noise, for example, you got your in-ears in as well. You know someone's shouting at you, but don't strictly know the words they're shouting unless the mics pick it up. Ashton has probably got, it's like you, he's got a big enough mouth that it will get picked up through other mics in the room.
Is it SI if that doesn't happen?
Just funny. Just funny. Get back underway though. Game is resuming. Ashen has committed his mental warfare to the other side. And like he says, I think FaZe had to clean something up. Here we go for round 14 then. Still potentially 2 more to play out here. It's SSG on the defense. And Tim, you'll be delighted to know they are not defending Bar and Cocktail.
They're not. They're going to mining instead. Let's have a look at how SSG did on mining on their defense. They won it in round 2. They won it in round 5. They've picked a site that they had 100% success on.
Weird, that.
I don't want to labour over it. It's not even about it being the top floor. I'm just a little bit surprised by the site choice for FaZe of that top floor. You know, it's your overtime first defense, and you're picking a site that you haven't yet won on defense. You've tried it twice, you've lost it twice. If we look at FaZe's defenses overall, they won on mining, they won on reading, they won on kitchen. You know, surely you pick one of those that you've had some success on, rather than the one that you haven't. But that is exactly what SSG have done. 2 attempts at mining, 2 wins so far. If they can make it 3 for 3, they take down FaZe inside 2 maps, and they get themselves a win here at SI24.
The stats don't lie, Tim. The stats don't lie. Forest being a bit cheeky on Snowdoor here, hoping to maybe not only slow the side of FaZe down, because although they'll surely get control of this east side of the map, it will require a bit of drone work. It will require being wary of the potential run out coming in from Snow, and that's why there's a nomad on site, just in case any of that chaos does begin. That's an interesting one. Just in case someone tries to run out behind them, they get blasted out.
Yeah, we saw the attempt last time. You either go out of white door or bottom garage. You just kind of get out and see if you can see up to anybody who's on a high rappel. If they're down on the ground, you can't see them. But yeah, it's a smart one, because it's always frustrating when teams try things like that and then don't deal with it themselves.
Yeah.
You know, if SSG come out and are successful after FaZe have tried it, you've got to ask questions at that point. But
it denies both ways to kind of jump out onto east and then run back down to the garage, or the garage
it's
run
just
out
a bit
with
of
the C4.
everything. That's it. So we're going to have the Twitch drone in. Does not take out the bulletproof cam that it was looking for. That could be a big one.
Yes. Previously, they've had to get right up close and personal with it and destroy it after clearing through the top floor. So the whole time it was feeding information against them. Probably going to have to find themselves doing exactly the same here. Cyber sat inside of Cigars, being so wary, doesn't want to give himself away entirely to that camera. Sees it now. Blessing a play in the Ash. Can destroy it at range. Although I imagine it got eaten up either by an ADS or by the Wamai. If not,
I did hear an explosion.
I did hear it, but it was a bit delayed though.
Yeah, we'll see as we go on whether that is still in position or not. But for the time being, FaZe are trying to continue on that top floor clearance. The fact that KDS is wandering through Lumber into Piano would suggest that they've got everybody moved on, which they have. Nano and Forest have dropped down underneath now, so Cocktail is in the possession of FaZe. They get things kicked off with a kill against Forest. Cyber using those verticals.
This would be just be a classic if in overtime in the first 2 rounds the attackers win both of the first 2 rounds.
100, yeah.
And you just have no idea what to expect going into 15. You can see it coming as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's on the cards. 5 versus 4 then, as the pressure continues to mount for SSG here. Fultz is kind of out on red stairs at the minute. He knows that there's somebody above him. I think he's just trying to have any impact that he can, but it's going to be difficult because it's Souls on 13 and 8 who's coming down the stairs looking for him, and it's not going to be an easy challenge.
This is not. It's got the right sort of idea. There is a player off to the left, but Souls just not quite got the angle that he needs. Fultz gets one back and it Souls down. I said, you got to kill God if you want to win these rounds, Tim, and they've done it.
Time is becoming such a factor here. 9 seconds left to go for SSG to hold on. 3 versus 3, 2 versus 2, 2 versus 1. Could SSG do this inside 2 maps? They've won it, Des! They've beaten FaZe on Cafe, and they take the win!
Unbelievable! Coming into today, everyone had FaZe down on those prediction cards. The teams take it. Maybe a 2-1 split, maybe you lose a map. But no, SSG taking both. Retain that decisive play that we saw yesterday as a team. And I said it in the game, Tim, for me, it did come down to that. It was 5 individuals versus a very well-drilled team. And maybe today we've seen J9 perform at the level we expect when you need a star player on your team. We didn't see that yesterday, but that has blown this group wide open. It is not going to be the clear run through that everyone thought it would be for FaZe.
No, absolutely not. And you've hit the nail on the head there, Des. SSG look like a great team today, working with each other, covering each other, trades, just, you know, the combination of the utility, sending in a Candela, Forest pushing in at the right time, the comms are obviously there, you can see it in the play. When comms are really good, you can see it. It's not about hearing it, and that is exactly what we've had from SSG. I've been impressed by them, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them as the group stages go on.
The thing is, like you said, they've had their 2 big games now, and it's not to assume that these 2 teams will be free wins for them. They've got D+ and they've got Bliss as their next 2 games.
They should be beating them, is the reality.
The very exciting one, in my opinion, will actually be now we see FaZe play up against Wolves. That'll be not so much the decider of the group, but if FaZe go and beat Wolves now, there's been that triangle of teams beating each other. It probably will come down to round if in terms of who sits where in seeding. Of course, only 1 team goes home in this group, but that seeding can mean a lot.
I love the chaos. I just get so excited.
So much more to come. What a group it's turning out to be. Let's go over to the desk where I'm sure they've got plenty to say about that matchup.
That we do, because this one was, I think, a bit of a barn burner. I don't know whether I expected it. I did say I'd go hopping. Maybe I might do that off camera. I don't think anyone wants to see that on camera. And what a performance from SSG.
Yeah, it was really entertaining seats to watch, in my opinion, as well. The way they were so structured on their attacks. I mean, we keep on talking about the attacks, but they're so important, especially considering both these teams' initial halves were 3-3s, right? So in overtime, that's what is really going to start to matter when you're winning your attacks or not. But it was really nice to see what kind of ideas and strategies that SSG are bringing out today.
Absolutely. I mean, we got to give credit to FaZe. They definitely played well.
Yep.
I just think SSG played so much better in the way that they matured from last event to this event. It's a different type of SSG that we've seen, and I'm very impressed to see how they've come full circle. They're able to be fast, they're able to be slow. They clearly had a game plan coming into this game.
Well, you said you're looking forward to, seeing and figuring out how far they've come. We actually get to hear how far they've come from probably the loudest person I have ever heard in a room, in a venue. That was ridiculous. What does it mean to beat FaZe?
Well, we lost to him in Atlanta. We've always, ever since then, we've had a bone to pick, especially me with Vidiking. Just a little rivalry. So, it's a great feeling, especially coming off the loss yesterday where we felt that game was in our control for, I'd say, 75% of the game. But, it just feels great right now. First dub, it was a 2-0, pretty good fashion. We're back on Cafe, so.
Absolutely. I mean, before we get into the dramatics, the game plan that I was talking about, it looked like you guys were very composed. I know in Atlanta, when things went awry, you guys kind of turned to your gun skill to bring you through that game back against FaZe. But this time around, it looked like you guys really stuck to the game plan, especially on defense, of really forcing FaZe to go for these executes.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through what the plan was a little bit without giving too much away?
They're a slow team, so we know, I'm a solo guy, you can watch any VOD and see me just like solo roam, so just kind of playing consolidating and not really giving them those picks. We learned a lot from Atlanta with, their speed and how slow they are, so I think we had a great game plan to just, bring the util and just bleed them out, so.
Absolutely. I mean, it showed, and there was a lot of trash talk before the game.
Yep.
You guys are really good at mental warfare. Do you think it came into an effect? Because you said you were going for Vidiking, and in that last match, I mean...
He was quiet. I don't know. He wasn't shooting. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. Yeah.
Okay. Keep it more composed.
Yeah,
I mean,
more composed.
on a bigger scale, right? You're in Brazil.
Yeah.
So all things going well, you make it to main stage. How do you think the crowd being against you this time is going to affect you and your team going forward?
I love it. Honestly, right now I'm the villain. I scream at all the Brazilian teams. All the people we play against. So it's just, if anything, it's them who have the weak mentals. It affects them more than me. So the crowd will affect me less than I will affect them more. So it's all ghost pressure, we call it. Get in the mind, just something to think about. Just typing in chat or just screaming, Vidking came up to me earlier and said, "You don't shoot today." He wasn't shooting both maps, so.
Well, look, to be honest, mate, that's a very solid performance for day two, especially after, yesterday. I think there were a lot of questions that people had. I think you've answered a lot of the questions for the fans at home and also for us here on the desk. It's really important to see that. As we usually do, I'd like to give you the final word. Anything you'd like to say before we let you go?
Yep. Shout out to Spacestation getting us that boot camp right before the event. Also, shout out to my parents. I'm still 18 in high school. They let me fly out, miss a month of school. So appreciate all the support back home, and let's keep cranking through groups.
Ashen, thank you very much, and congratulations on what is a massive victory.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, that now sets the tone, right? That sets the pace for SSG. They now have to match that as they go through SI. This is the benchmark that we've seen from them. Whether it's the trash talk, whether it's the in-game performance, you can wipe that all aside, Anne, because collectively, as a team, they looked like a unit.
Definitely did.
Absolutely. I think we know SSG as being a good team. We know FaZe as being a very consistent team. Usually everybody on the side of FaZe is usually firing on all cylinders. I hate to put it all on one guy because it's not, but the biggest outlier was Vidiking. Especially in Atlanta, he was the one getting inside SSG's head. He was the one firing up the crowd, and he was actually winning a lot of the rounds on that supportive role. But today, I think SSG definitely had a good answer for him. They definitely forced him to go for those plans and be able to put his gun down, put the case down, and that's where the C4s were able to respond on SSG's side and get them those rounds on defense.
I really liked SSG's takes on this map, though, specifically their attacks coming out here. We saw that FaZe spend out Grim, and basically it felt to me like SSG was picking everything else of that utility they could bring in that game. We saw lots of Gridlock, we saw Ying lots of times, we saw a few Dokubis as well here and there, just to make sure they can use that utility to take one part of the map. We saw it so many times with the cocktail take, where they take that initial part, and even if that doesn't fully 100% succeed, they will still rotate around to the other side of the map and still pull off a successful take.
Absolutely. I love the amount of misdirection that they had too. Some rounds they were bringing Ram and Buck to be able to cause a lot of noise, a lot of problems, and then the Ying as well, taking, like you said, distraction away. And then most of the times it really led into or fed into one guy upside down on a rappel. We saw a lot of the bait pushing FaZe into these open, exposed positions where they have to respond to the diffuser, and SSG was there waiting for them.
The big one for me, kind of looking at this as a whole, SSG, the number was 19% attacking win rate coming into today. And they've gone back-to-back against FaZe, you know, 3-4 attacking wins on Cafe, likewise on Border. Is this good signs? Is this what we need to see to potentially have SSG make main stage?
I think it is. I think the biggest question against Wolves wasn't necessarily their defense. I think it was the SSG attacks. They felt a little clunky, a little not on the same page, but today you could clearly see the difference in game plan, in who they needed to go for, where they needed to take, and the adaptation, especially on Border, going from round one trying to be very direct, didn't work. All of a sudden, they turned into a bunch of little like ants, rats going to the basement, finding their picks on the floor, and again, pushing FaZe into these exposed positions. And FaZe just wasn't ready for it. They didn't adapt on the same level as SSG.
No, and that's, I guess at the end of the day, that's something we've talked about a lot, is the mid-round adaptations and how they work. But something that also plays a huge effect can be a mid-round adaptation from a single player. The Intel highlight will show that the play of the game faults with that quick little 3K. Really, for me, I think we've seen a couple of moments throughout these games. We saw it on Border, and then we saw it again on Cafe. Just slight moments where a player will stand up and pretty much change the entire outcome of a round.
100%. I feel like Fultz did a really, really good job with that today. Definitely one of the standout players in that regards, being able to really pull around back towards his favor, whereas they're really not looking all too good, but then just really good positioning and that, you know, game sense of being in the right moment, right time, helping out well.
You have to commend Fultz because he wasn't always on the roles on the flex role that he is today. He used to be kind of Ashen's roles. He used to be that primary entry, that guy that went out and got the kills for his team. So now for him to take a back seat and really support and flex his team while doing it, while looking good, I mean, you have to commend him for that level of maturity increase.
That's a very good look. It's an observation that I think starts to concrete the conversation that we had for this matchup in particular. But speaking of this matchup in particular, it's all over. It's done and dusted. SSG 2-0 FaZe, surprisingly for most at home. But we now move on to a game that has, I would say, a fair bit at stake. Wolves are currently 1-0 in their win column. Bliss are yet to even play on a main stage, and let alone even play at SI. And they're coming up after this break.